just a gimmick, right? Like, fuck, they put them out around St. Patrick's Day, and that's these filthy hooligan fucking series of cigar.
Here we are.
Are we right on time?
I think we're a few seconds late, actually.
Could be late.
15 seconds late to our own party, but
that's the joke, right? You got to say you start at 8, and then when people actually are there at 8, you're just shocked.
Yeah, it's kind of rare. Most folks they chime in right around 10.
They're early. No, it's 8.
They're super early.
That's cool too. So,
we'll let a few folks get on.
If there's anybody on there yet, let us know if you can hear us. If it's lagging,
yeah, better do the old mic check.
Mic check. Absolutely.
I did all that beforehand, actually, and behind, so hopefully it's working. So,
let us know if you guys got rain where you're at. I didn't get rain at my place, and Stan got like an hour's worth of.
It poured here, yeah.
Hours worth of raining.
Lightning struck just north of the house. Oh, Taylor's on.
If there's too many, if there's not enough rain in the county, there's going to be very few people here tonight. Haying is.
Oh, I mean that's number one, right? 100%. I know. Yeah, we are not haying today because.
And we don't.
You know what? Blessed, I guess, right? That's always the thing. Oh, farmers are going to be happy when it rains.
Well, this one is, but I missed the rain.
Yeah.
You didn't want it to rain, and you got the rain. So.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, right? You want it to rain because you want to feed the pastures, but also if you're trying to make hay to put up feed for the winter, well, we could just, for a couple of weeks, be dry, little breeze, low humidity, we'd be all right.
That's it, right? It could have rained like a week and a half ago. It could have got, say, 2.5 inches. And then we could have had 2.5 week spell of 18, 22 degrees. Get the haying done.
We'd be set.
Another splash of rain just to make sure we don't have forest fires. And then boom. Get to swathing.
Yeah. Speaking of forest fires, there hasn't been much this way at all.
No, I haven't heard. I haven't even. Yeah, they were on the radio last year and the year before all day.
Yeah, cool wet spring.
Strawberries like crazy. I was picking strawberries.
You got strawberries?
Wild strawberries?
Oh, wild strawberries. Our strawberries in the raised beds, they didn't come in at all last year.
Okay.
They recovered this year, but there's no like.
Were they new last year?
No, they were new 2 years ago, and we had like just dozens and dozens, like strawberries for days, right?
Oh, okay.
But then last year it was so dry, and so hot, they just didn't do well. And then this year they've come back, but they're just no production, right? So
I found them to be later.
And maybe that's I gotta be patient.
2-3 weeks later. Even the wild strawberries, for
we're even seeing that with the rest of the garden too, like pumpkins. I mean, there's cover there, but they're not flowering good and taking off. Potatoes is the only one that's actually doing exceptional.
Spuds are doing good.
Yeah.
We are probably a little short of water right here. We had a little bit of. I think we only got about 2.5 inches maybe since seeding.
Yeah. Anyways, looks like we got a half a dozen folks on. Kristen's on. Actually, just stopped at Kristen's place the other day and dropped off.
We got a cup.
Coffee cup. So.
Well, may as well pump the cups.
Yeah. So you'll see
is anybody that it doesn't know.
Smoking oak coffee cup. There's also a whiskey glass. There's the hoodie. If you want to pop that up as well.
These are actually pretty comfy.
It's actually super comfy. So for anybody that's new that hasn't joined one of our live streams before, the key is throw a comment in, say hi, add to the conversation, and we'll add your name to a draw at the end of the show, like tomorrow sometime once we compile all the comments, and then pick a winner, and we'll reach out and say what do you want? Do you want a hoodie? Do you want a cup? Do you want a whiskey glass? What is it? And as you'll see, I mean, there's no secret right in front there. What is that?
Well, this is top shelf too.
Top shelf, yes. So this is like the creme de la creme, the piece de la resistance.
Maybe I'll set that over here.
Nice little humidor, 175 cigar humidor. So when we get 1,000 subscribers on the Smoking Oak channel, we're going to do a draw for that humidor. Hey, you better tuck it back out of the way. That'd be just our luck. We dump it off the table because things are going to get rowdy tonight, right? That's
It's gonna get totally wild.
That's the plan. We're pretty much
It's gonna get canceled. We might
live and uncensored. We might give
48 subscribers, and that's
48
it.
and just get we'll be on Oprah Winfrey and then canceled. Jeremy's on, can't stay long, gave the video the first like. Well, I appreciate that. That's very kind.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, I think Jeremy's got other agricultural commitments here this evening, which
Obviously didn't get the rain, not yet anyways.
I get it. Yeah, no, that's congratulations, I guess. But yeah, tonight we're going to talk about
The Dawn of Idiocracy. So what, last live stream, always our after party, we were thinking about men's health, and we were going to do that one too. But
For sure.
we just got right into this. So I watched the movie a while back called Idiocracy. Told Stan about it.
I had to rewatch it tdo.
I watched it again the other day, and I was thinking, like, this is it feels real. And then so our what do you call the collage we made for TikTok and this about this?
Yeah.
It's the one poster says Idiocracy was supposed to be a documentary, not supposed to be a documentary. It's supposed to be just a movie. But it really. I did a bit of research on the movie. It got absolutely no traction because it wasn't ever promoted.
And well, people didn't get it. Like,
and I was thinking, like, of all the movies they've made recently, and I didn't even look up what when that movie was made, but it actually to me was entertaining.
Yeah, I think it's got to be early 2000s because it's got like Dax Shepard and that.
Yeah.
That other, I forget the other guy's name.
I can't remember him either.
I always think it's Owen Wilson, but it's not. It's his lookalike there.
Anyways, if you guys haven't seen it, definitely check it out because it is shockingly accurate. So the other one too that was Don't Look Up.
Yeah,
that's another one that's kind of highlighting how, I guess, dumb and unrealistic we've become as society as a whole. In the way we're attacking things.
Yeah, we just like literally have the answer staring us right in the face, and we just can't get there, right? So, yeah, no, good. And then, of course, as tradition would require, we're going to have a whiskey and a cigar this evening, right?
A cigar. And the cigar is actually kind of fitting for this topic. So I was in at Cedar Gems, our favorite spot, at least my favorite spot. You're kind of big into,
I took the sheath off.
You did?
Just because it was on the outside of the plastic wrap.
Oh, was it?
It was on the outside.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I just fired them in a bag and I called you. I was like, man, I've got to get these in the humidor right away.
I thought that was, well, I was curious what was under there because it was on the outside. And then I'm like, oh, that's actually a pretty fancy little cover there. I like that.
So I picked up 4 cigars. The other 2, so we buy, obviously two of the same ones at a time. These ones, they're by Alec Bradley. The first one we had was at Texas Lancero. That's 70 by 70. These are 60 by 50. Quite a bit smaller. You're going to look for about a 2-hour burn time.
6 by 50.
So cool thing about these, if I can get it under wrap. So these are a gimmick cigar. They come out around St. Patrick's Day. They're called a Black Market Shamrock Tri-Wrap from this Filthy Hooligan series. I don't know if you can get up there and close stand and show them.
See one of these.
There's a Tri-Wrap. Now the dark brown is a Nicaraguan Habano leaf. Then the lighter one is a Maduro Nicaraguan Habano leaf. And the green one finally is a it's called a Candela. I had to look all this up obviously because I don't know. It was funny too in the cigar world. So I was on, I think, Cigar Aficionado, and they were talking about how the filler in the binder is like a secret. Then I watched this YouTube video on a guy doing very much what we're doing, but he was more explaining the cigar. And right away he was like, "Oh no, it's Panamanian filler, and then Ecuadorian binder." So,
but I mean, it looks like somebody took the spice rack and just rolled it up. Like it's green, it's tan, it's dark brown, it's very interesting. So it's like a spiral contradiction. Like
this is going to be by far the lowest class cigar we smoked so far.
The lowest?
Yeah, like it has almost no respect in the cigar community. When you look at this, it's just strictly it's actually even looked down upon.
It's like the Pinto of cigars.
Yeah, they're just not a fan of it. Like real cigar people they wouldn't have this hodgepodge of this mix doesn't make sense to them. The guy that I watched on YouTube, it was funny. He was very disgusted by this guy. and the taste of it. And so I messaged Stan and I said, we should find something to pair this with, a drink that we don't, that we're not attached to financially or anything like that, because it's probably all going to be awful. So this, after he explained that the whole thing tasted like rotten milk the whole time that he smoked it,
man.
I thought this can't be right. So I did look up some tasting notes. Starting out, we should be getting grass, citrus, cream, coffee, mushrooms. We can probably assume it's going to be pretty disgusting.
It's going to be terrible.
So, although this one, it smells better than the other.
It doesn't smell like a glove box.
No, it doesn't smell like an old granary or anything. Yeah. So then as we get through the first third, we're going to get citrus, red pepper. On the retrohale, you're going to get a lot of that spice. And then into the second third, citrus and grass again. And then for the last, it's going to be citrus and grass, which doesn't sound too bad, but the guy that was smoking it, he was just... Citrus smell like an old silage pile or something. So one thing that we definitely know, when they smell horrible out of their wrapper, they actually generally, they smoke pretty good. They usually do smoke pretty good, yeah. This one actually, I would say, smells pretty decent, but I guess we'll find out. Clip the cap off of this. So it's a fitting cigar for... cuts beautifully. For Idiocracy. And where we're at with everything. I'd be curious to know, anybody that's watching, have you guys been inspired to try a cigar after a few of these live streams? Because they are fun. Yeah, I mean, there's... Did you got this done already? Yeah, I got I bought the second one, remember? Because you got those big honking hay bales for cigars, so I had to get this 80 ring gauge cutter. So now we have a second cutter, so we can share. It's kind of good. But yeah, for the, I guess the pairing, the whiskey pairing that we're gonna go with. When you said this wasn't gonna be good, I was like, oh, okay, I got just the thing for this. And not that this whiskey is not good, but it's polarizing, right? There's some folks that think it's just the best thing ever, and some folks that think it's just absolutely awful. So you see from the box, got a very decorative box. The bottle is an absolute work of art. There's a lot of, I don't know what you would call that. It's kind of a Celtic vibe, but it's supposed to be more of a Norse vibe. It's Highland Park 12-year-old Viking Honor. And so it's a single malt Scotch whiskey. And this comes from a distillery in Kirkwall in Orkney. So the Orkney, the islands there, the very northernmost tip of Scotland. And so it looks down over, they have 25, the warehouses are number 1 to 25. There's actually only 23 buildings. They're not really sure what happened there. Maybe they left 13 and one burnt down or exact. But anyways, the distillery's been in play for 220 years. So it's up there. You know, it's definitely seen a brew or two. The other thing that's pretty interesting is the stills. They're made in Speyside, which is a very common whiskey distilling area, but they're the only distillery to actually have windows cut into the stills. So as you're boiling the liquid, you can actually see it boil in the stills, which is kind of interesting. And so I guess just the review, what's out on the internet, what do folks say about this? So I looked at the Whiskey Exchange. They said Highland Park 12-year-old remains one of the gold standard malts. Okay. So not like this at all. And I'll get to why I picked this one, right? It remains one of the gold standard malts for other distillery bottlings to aspire to, with a delicious sweetness. Heather honey is what they describe it as. It says right on the back, heather honey. I don't know what that is. Heather is a flower that grows in the Highlands, like a wildflower. That's good. Yeah, I'm sure the bumblebees like it. And then this warming, silky mouthfeel. It's a whiskey that never lets you down. It's the greatest all-rounder in the world of malt whiskey. So that sounds pretty promising, right? It does. Might be a good time. So tasting notes by one of the reviewers. So the nose should be salted lemons, a whiff of charcoal smoke, crunchy green apples, tropical fruit chews, unripe mango. I don't know, really unripe mango would be more like piney, but beeswax, honey, dusty wood, and fruity dark chocolate, maybe chocolate limes,
develops in a glass, picks up more fruit, and then slowly cuts into the citrus notes. So there could be an awful lot happening in the glass as it starts to breathe. On the palate, starts off with a syrupy sweetness, quickly moving on to sour and creamy wood, which I thought, okay, that might go well with the cigar. With more tropical chews, pineapple and smoked orange rind, and then the finish, smoky wood, malt syrup, green pine cones, and woody spice. I'm like, ooh, that's going to be a contradiction. So it's always interesting because you get the whiskey snobs and they say all of that, right? And then you taste the whiskey and then you're like, I don't really know if I got any of that.
Varsol.
Yeah. Or right. Well, maybe, hopefully not, but maybe.
It tastes like Varsol.
Right? It smells like, yeah, like.
I shouldn't say that. I did think that before.
Like if you burnt the Varsol.
We've had, there's not some undeniably good scotch.
Some is really, really good.
So,
but I mean, I know there's one that we're going to uncork and we're just going to immediately regret it. And this may be it. And so this is why I selected this one, because the review, when I went to the Whiskey Exchange, the very top review, I was like, this is gold. So James Culver on the 10th of January reviewed this. He said he received this bottle of Highland Park 12-year-old Scotch as a gift. I'm an avid Scotch drinker, and this is the only single malt Scotch to ever have the distinct honor of being dumped down my kitchen drain. The iodine taste just completely overwhelms all of the other flavors, if there are any, and ruins the taste. Unless you're a fan of metallic iodine, I would recommend avoiding this one.
I wonder what the last 3 or 4 cigar reviews we've done. We've been pretty diplomatic on the scotches, but if we'll ever be taken seriously, because I've been pretty critical of like cigar scents, and you generally don't see that if you watch a proper cigar review.
You don't see anybody else in the industry say this smells like an old grain truck glove box. You don't.
Maybe they just don't have that worldly sense of different smells.
That's probably what it is. They're uncultured, not us. Right?
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely. Are we allowed ice? Did you do that? We always.
If it tastes like iodine, I brought ice because it might be the only thing that gets us through the evening. But
that's hilarious.
Oh, Fred's on too. Evening, gents. I hope everyone's doing well. Yeah, doing fantastic.
Not that too far ahead, maybe.
Oh, it definitely has a medicinal odor to it.
Yeah, it smells like an apple.
I was gonna say I wouldn't say apples.
You wouldn't say.
I mean, it's there, but it's.
Well, that's why, and we had talked about this earlier too. You start to read, and this is not exclusive to cigar reviews and whiskey reviews. You read TripAdvisor reviews and stuff like that. People have just totally different ideas
experiences
of what things are.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I got apple, like green apple right away. You didn't get that at all. Thank you.
No, I just got hit with. I could definitely that metallic. I could see how you could get there with the metallic side.
And the other thing too, for if there's some diehards watching that watched these before, we intentionally did not like the cigar first because we didn't know if we were ruining the whiskey.
That's right. Yes, you.
And I still was trying to do some research on that. What you're supposed to do first if you're doing them in tandem.
Well, it's one of those things. Whiskey and cigars often aren't. I mean, there's a niche market there, but the larger cigar market would definitely more go towards coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Coffee will always complement a cigar, whereas a whiskey, quite often, if you go cigar first, you're going to lose a lot of the flavors in the whiskey.
Yeah.
If you go whiskey first, you're going to numb a lot of the nerve endings in your tongue, and you could miss a lot of the notes in the cigar.
Because that is the thing. These are both very powerful on your senses.
100%. Yeah.
So from your sense of smell and the retrohale, your sense of taste, even a good sniff of scotch will make your eyes water. Like it's stuff there's a lot going on. So
well, absolutely.
We decided this time we would do the scotch taste first, and then see how.
I'm excited. I gotta get a nose full here first. It doesn't, so we had Lagavulin 8 last time, and it had that almost what would you call it? Like a hospital, like almost like a disinfectant type smell to it.
The other amazing thing is how much lighter it was.
This used as a more there's peat, right? You can pick up hints of peat in here.
And instant heartburn.
Oh, okay.
So whatever does that. But it's good.
Yeah,
I wouldn't dump it. I think
there's pepper on the tongue.
I think your buddy was wrong.
And as you take the first swallow, it runs quickly down the sides of the tongue, I find. But it's not too warm when it hits the back of the throat. Like it doesn't knock your larynx right out. Well, we'll see how this progresses throughout the evening.
No, I think this is a good one.
I think we'd be safe to have that without ice.
For the torching here.
Another sophisticated shiner's on. Looking good, fellas. You might need a good clear jar. And if anybody knows anybody that's got some home recipes, I'm always interested.
I gotta check out that Crabby Goat. I see they got out of Valley. They're like #1 distiller in Alberta. They won a couple of awards.
Crabby Goat. They're
do they make scotch?
Are they an above board organization?
They are, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Oh yeah, they got a restaurant, I think, and everything. Make pies and all sorts of.
I happen to know a guy that's working on a secret recipe right now.
This cooked really well.
Some oak barrels. So I think I'm gonna use this one.
Really good draw too off the start. We did find with some of our smaller 50 rain gauge, 48 rain gauges, the draw wasn't so good. And actually, I don't know if people know this, Stan made this draw tool.
Draw enhancing tool.
So you just kind of, if you're smoking cigars at all and they won't stay lit and you can't inhale through them, you need to get yourself one of these. They're one. We haven't used that in a while. But I wouldn't. So originally, I don't get any of what they tell you this is going to taste like. But to me, it doesn't taste bad.
I immediately got sour cream.
Did you?
Immediately.
No. You're wrong. That can't be. And I don't think this would take me 2 hours to smoke either.
The retrohale, though, right off the get-go, the retrohale reminds me of back in the old country. We used to live in a small town named Wigton in Cumbria, in northern England. And out behind the grocery store parking lot, there was a brick wall with a missing brick, and we'd keep our pouch of tobacco in there as young boys out there going to have sneak a cigarette, eh? And that's just with that retrohale. It's funny how the senses work, eh? They just take you back to certain things. And sneaking a cigarette in the grocery store parking lot. That's where that took me.
I gotta say, first 2-3 puffs.
It's pretty clean.
I would be a fan. I really would be. I will see where we get to after that first third. That's the other thing. So the cigars are smoked in thirds, and they do change. It's incredible how much they
big
change.
Time. Yeah, I wasn't really sure if that was even a thing, but once you start smoking a few, you definitely start to recognize when that shift happens, and it is most definitely third by third. Like you could almost like cut a ruler with it, right? So.
Awesome.
Anyways,
getting into it.
To the business. Idiocracy.
So we had right away, someone commented right away, saying, I can go look up what that means. And you had a good, explain it very clearly.
Dwight Harrington had asked, well, like, what is idiocracy? And so it's intended to be a satirical form of government that's run entirely by idiots. And the unfortunate thing is, regardless of where you sit on the political spectrum, we're there. You know, the title of this is The Dawn of Idiocracy, but what's kind of scary is that there's a little fly here. What's kind of scary is that we're actually
living it.
We've definitely got a foot in, if not, maybe not both, but I mean, the second one's coming in pretty fast, right? And it's really, really concerning.
Well, that's it. The thing I find the concerning part is we don't seem to. There doesn't seem to be any movement like away from it back to a more intelligent, productive time. Everybody's protesting and screaming something, but
nobody wanted to make America great again.
I wouldn't say that was the best argument for that guy.
No, it didn't, because there was too much other stuff that got tacked into that, right?
And that's the thing. I was thinking that when I was driving over here, protesting in itself. Has anybody seen an intelligent protest in the last 5 years? Every single protest has been derailed by hooligans, filthy hooligans.
Ironically enough.
Right? There's a very fitting cigar for this.
You're right. You may have a valid cause or a legitimate cause that you go to express your concern via the valid channels, arrive at the doorsteps of Parliament or the legislature, wherever you happen upon. And you cannot help the fact that other people are attracted to that cause with different values. And it really waters it down.
It absolutely does.
And in such a way that pretty quickly any cause that you take to the doorsteps of the government can grow legs and go in a completely different direction than it ever was intended. But if you look pre-1960s, and I mean I say this just from reading the history books, not from actually having been there. Pre-1960s, were there any protests? Very, very few.
Yeah, I think the odd person didn't like to go to war, but
yeah, there was very, very few protests. I mean, in case more often, people either minded their own business or they made shit happen.
Well, and why is that? So is that because of a lack of communication? Like people weren't able to organize before the telephone, before the internet, because we had definitely hit. Like I think that social media was the cliff. That was where we fell off into idiocracy. People found out.
Oh yeah, I mean we were doing this, and then all of a sudden 2007 hits. Everybody gets Facebook, and it's just like.
And even now, so Stan and I both, a little while ago, we hopped on TikTok. One of the guys that watches, he said, "Oh, you guys should get on TikTok." And geez, the deplorable shit on there. Like it's totally shocking. So I got some. I just got some bullet points on some reasons on why I think that, and one of them was social media here. And where did I don't know, I put it in there. But the shit you see on TikTok, everybody has a past trauma that that definitely deserves to be taken seriously. But how the fuck is spreading it on the internet for everybody and dancing to some background music? How is that taking anything seriously?
7 million underdressed young women with, father issues.
I was fucking floored. I could not believe that people were just putting this shit out there.
Yeah.
Totally. I was shocked.
Yeah, like you think you should keep your dirty laundry off the internet, but then they show up without any laundry, and it's like, how does that work? Right?
Well, the whole tits and ass for views or whatever is really.
Well, as a society, we've really become desensitized, right? That's for sure. I mean, if you did something that was shocking in 1950, you would be saying like, if you said "God damn it" on television in 1950, you'd have been censored.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's F-bombs, it's blood, it's guts, it's porn, it's
Well, did you listen to what Cardi B's lyrics? And I mean, they were on TikTok too the other day. Shocking.
Yeah. No, I mean,
shocking.
I'm aware of some of their lyrics, and it's
people are buying their kids tickets to go to this.
What's concerning is, I mean, as a not necessarily a mentor, but as a role model for young women. What's the message you're sending there?
The message is horrible, and I think
degradation of moral value.
It's intentional.
Well, 100%, 100% it is, right?
And to what end? I have no idea. But well, it's funny, because you were saying, "Baby, It's Cold Outside." The Christmas Carol was banned for being too. What's the word? Anyways.
And if he just said, yeah, there was women's right to vote and working conditions protests all over the place, lots in the 30s. You're absolutely right. That definitely did occur. Women's suffrage,
yeah,
right? That in the 1920s, 1930s, that was legitimately a thing. Which was actually, I shouldn't say 1920s, 1930s. Here in Alberta, it was 1916. The first woman got the right to vote. 1917, the first woman got to office. So largely, we didn't see that here. We saw it in the 20s and 30s, more over in Eastern Canada and Quebec, because that was, I think we talked about this in the last live stream.
We did, yeah.
It didn't happen in Eastern Canada. The West, for once, was actually further, I guess further ahead, more forward thinking, right?
More progressive, yeah.
And working conditions, the working conditions they weren't good. They weren't good until probably easily late 1940s, right? When things got squared up, right? Post Second World War was hard not to have, because there was a significant labor shortage. Things had to change, right? Unions had to step in and do things, right? But yeah, I took some notes on cultural suicide is what it's called. Because you think of it, the fall of any of the great civilizations, China, Rome, the Mayans, ancient Greece, and what caused all of that, and what some of the warning signs are. And the first one was actually like decaying cities and infrastructure. You think where we are now. I mean, we've got two, right where the farm is here, two municipalities that are exactly the same distance apart from each other, and are both like almost crippled by water. Water and wastewater management is like, we literally can't afford to get water in. We can't afford to get water out. And the streets that go over top are crumbling around it. We've got buildings that are, we're trying to save 150-year-old, well, not even, probably only some of those. What's that tea house on the corner of Hythe on Main Street there?
Yeah, I don't.
That's like 85 years old.
Yeah, I don't exactly know how old that is.
And there's this big mission to spend $100,000 to save this building. This is wood building. And you can't afford to pave the street.
I know.
It's just ridiculous, right?
We got priorities. Mixed up for sure.
But then coming with that is there's no monuments, right? When you're proud of something, when you're proud of your culture, when you're doing stuff, when you're being proactive, when you're building things that are worth remembering, you build monuments. What are we doing now?
Yeah, well, we're tearing them down.
We're tearing them down.
What few exist? See, and that's the problem too with being such a young country. Canada's 155 or 4 years old or something like that, and out west is arguably a lot younger. So things like that house in Hythe, that old hospital, what it was actually. Yeah, that's one of our old structures, but it's only 85 years old too.
But it was one of the first, right?
We're that young. Where people have there's buildings in Europe that are thousands of years old.
That's
buildings
right.
in Western Canada that are like 85 years old. That and to me, those things don't hold the same appeal. Saving something built out of stone and with some great architecture behind it, and that really showcases what humanity can do, is important to save. Saving an old building that used to be a hospital and basically now serves on purpose, I can't see.
There's not a lot of value there.
I can't see spending any time renovating it and restoring it. In fact, I'm kind of out with the old, in with the new.
Yeah. That's the thing. So how can we as a society not maintain the required infrastructure? Like even you think, okay, well, 2015 there was a federal promise to put clean drinking water in every First Nations home. Do we have that?
I don't even think close.
We're not even 10% close.
Shocking as all hell to me. Shocking.
Right?
That to me, that's an easy one. When you look at what they're doing with remote water treatment plants and portable water treatment plants, and so I seen somewhere the other day. I guess Canada has more lakes than the rest of the world combined.
They do, yeah.
a tremendous amount of surface
I
fresh
think
water that
Saskatchewan
could be treated.
has more lakes than the rest of Canada combined.
We have, the ability to. It's so. In the movie The Idiocracy, it basically starts off showing that humanity can't even handle its own garbage anymore, just its own household garbage. And, water is another one we were just saying. How the hell can we not, what are we too busy doing that we can't get water to Canadian citizens? What are we too busy that we can't manage our garbage properly?
Well, garbage is another. How are we in such a place as a, albeit a virgin nation? How have we got to a place where we create as much garbage as by capita per capita as China and the U.S.? How the hell are we there?
Well, you can't.
We're still living in wood houses.
You can't fight that until you convince people that they can walk around in a store without filling up a shopping cart. Yeah. If you can leave shit on the shelf. In fact, I was in town on Tuesday picking up some parts, and I walked in and just around the Princess Auto store. I really don't. A store like that actually kind of pisses me off because a lot of the stuff on the shelf is garbage anyways. It's a lot of it is quality, so tolerances are too wide, and that's why it's cheap. But shit doesn't work out of the box; it fails instantly.
Yeah.
But there are things you can get there. I bought a hand winch from one of my augers, and there are some things for sure that you can get there.
There's a few small wins there, yeah.
And but I was with my boy, and we walked up and down all the aisles, and he said, "Well, what are we doing? If we're not buying anything, what are we doing?" And I said, "I just want to see. I just want to know what's available."
It's a social exercise.
Well, I find that it's, operating a farm, it's very handy to know what's on the shelf.
Sure.
And I was shocked as all hell to see a bin of windshield wiper motors because on my old case backhoe, the windshield wiper motor.
Sure.
Motor.
Yeah.
And I thought, I wonder if I can adapt one of these. Then the second voice was like, it's probably shit anyways. It probably doesn't work. But
buy two.
It's $19.99, right?
Yeah.
When a windshield wiper is like $186, the motor.
Sure.
Case or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but my point to that was you can walk around the store, and I don't find a place like Princess Auto or Peavey Mart to be so bad for this. But you go into a store like Walmart or Sears where they have a lot of stuff, a lot of toys, a lot of consumer things, household things. Yeah. Fucking shopping carts were overfull all the time, and I always wondered, fuck it, is it just because it's Tuesday that you guys have to buy all that stuff?
To buy all that crap, yeah. It's funny because there is nothing. If you went to Walmart today and you looked at any one of those shopping carts, any one, I would hazard to say any one of them, there is not one item in any one of those single shopping carts that anybody would give a fuck about 5 years from now. It would probably be in the landfill 5 years from now.
Yeah, or
maybe
sooner.
Maybe not even that long.
Or
maybe
sooner.
A year.
Because just like social media, like TikTok, like YouTube's, we're putting out shorts that are 15 seconds because the human attention span is
as far as it goes.
Like we can't even.
Yeah, we're overstimulating the brain that we cannot sit and be bored for any length of time.
No, absolutely no. Or fill their evening with something, right? With a conversation or something. That was 35 seconds. Moving on. Like we can't. So how are you then to expect that whatever great euphoric feeling you're feeling about buying this piece of shit thing is going to carry on for the next week?
Well,
it's not.
No, that's exactly what happens. So you see this, you're streaming Netflix or YouTube or whatever, Amazon Prime or whatever you're watching, and you're also on your phone.
Yeah.
And you probably got the Google whatever spyware piece of shit going on in the kitchen playing music, and you're still trying to have a conversation with somebody. It's no wonder your brain can't function.
Yeah,
it's information
actually getting dumber while you think you're multitasking, getting smarter.
Yeah,
we did that whole thing on our time management thing. The studies are clear that the brain can only take in so much information, and a lot of this, I'm gonna reference Idiocracy, the movie, quite a bit. A lot of it was dumb people sitting there just laughing.
Yeah.
And you look, and so what you're saying about sitting on the couch and you're kind of like laughing at this and laughing at whatever's on TV that you're not following, and we're all just zombies now sitting there laughing with absolutely no ability to free think, communicate, or
Not at all. Not at all.
really express anything.
It's kind of interesting because I mean, you and I we're pretty well dressed fellows. We're not neurologists by any means. But
No.
you think about like how does the brain learn? So the brain experiences something new, and it has a pathway that's built into the brain, and then so it experiences something new, and so what it does is it tries to tie those two things together. How does it do that? So it causes cross synaptic firing, is what it's called. So it arcs across, boom, it forms a bond there. But what we're seeing now, where you've got TV and you've got TikTok or whatever going on your phone, you got this other stuff going on in the background, the kids are screaming, is it's like taking a wrench from the positive to the negative post on your battery and just arcing it, shorting shit out, right? And you think things are happening, but it's not. It's not. It's actually you're going backwards. You're getting dumber by the minute, right? The other thing I noted was falling fertility. In almost every advanced civilization culture, there's been cases of falling fertility where like the rich see children as a burden. Do we see that today? 100%. We see people, working professionals not trying to have kids until they're set up, until they're established, or they want to go and they want to travel, they want to see the world.
Yeah, worse than that. They
Right.
don't even believe the world is salvageable enough.
Or I don't want to bring kids into this world, right?
A sin in itself, right?
and then you've got the lower classes who look at that and they're thinking, Matt, like if I bring kids into this world, like how are we going to even be able to afford them? Well, chances are they're probably not going to be able. There's something's got to give, and it's going to be food, shelter, education. In order to survive, you need food and shelter. So education goes down the drain, right? So you see a lot of the underprivileged having challenges with school programming, right? They just don't get the best, right? And so if you got a society where you just don't value continuity of life, then you pretty quickly start to spiral downhill.
Yeah.
So, and then so where do you go from there? Do people get married anymore?
I was at a wedding this weekend.
You were at a wedding this weekend. That was right. I mean, it happens.
But yeah, it seems to be few and far between.
Sounds like somebody just pulled into the yard.
We got visitors.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I don't know if you. I think in rural settings or whatever, in this community for sure, not much has changed. People live a conservative lifestyle.
There's still foundational values that are there, for sure. But I mean, if you look at the larger populace, you still see that there's people that are given to prostitution. There's people that are given to hookups. I mean, Tinder is the big thing now, right? There's. I mean, I'm sure that's just one of many options, right? But it's value the hookup over the household.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, yeah, and it's shocking how that shift is that, it's really championed. It's really raised up on a pedestal to live this
commitment-free lifestyle. Yeah.
And I'm not sure that ever really went well. But I never referenced the Bible because I don't think that helps anything. But Sodom and Gomorrah were prime examples of why things like that don't work.
Yeah, I'm sure we're not all going to turn into a pillar of salt, but metaphorically speaking, we certainly could get there.
And there were just some good ideas. Doesn't matter where they come from. When they exercise caution on certain things that. Going down these roads aren't going to lead anywhere positive. No. And what's shocking to me is we seem to be on that road going down, and we're gaining speed. Nobody in the car is like, "Fuck, hey, we should pump the brakes here a bit."
Well, can you pump the brakes anymore? Can you?
Well,
or do you get canceled instantly? Because the minute anybody with whether they've got a sense of logic, or they're just chivalry or whatever it is, that they're just like, you know what, I have to stop you right there and I have to say a thing. Anybody gets that, what do?
Yeah,
You're a racist. You're a bigot. You're a misogynist.
We've gotten pretty good at throwing out labels,
100%.
words, terms that we don't understand at all. And obviously a big thing that happens when you do that is you devalue all of it.
Well, yeah.
Now being called a racist
doesn't even mean anything.
It should be hardly offensive because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
No.
Like you have no idea. I mean, there was a joke a few years back on social media that somebody couldn't get the fucking French fries at McDonald's and they called them racist.
Yeah.
Like we've all of this stuff has lost any
never mind
power.
Never mind you couldn't even sit in the same classroom. Never mind you weren't allowed in a restaurant. Never mind you weren't allowed to sit at the front of the bus. Like a legitimate you couldn't be seen with a white woman. Like legitimate racism. Now you can't get your chicken fingers or your friend. You're racist. No, you're not.
Right away, yeah, and as you said, I mean, if you say anything, and that's a big thing too. People don't even. We're so quick to judge, and there's not a lot of critical thinking. I mean, you get up from a restaurant and you're like, oh, thanks for the meal. Fuck, somebody gets offended.
Karen's everywhere.
They don't know if you're, maybe their meal wasn't so good, so they're mad at you, or they thought you were being sarcastic, and you don't say anything. You get up, you leave.
Well, we live in a society that's so privileged now that I wouldn't even get offended. I would not be offended, but you could be offended on my behalf. That's the reality, right? Is you see people with privilege that become offended on behalf of the people that don't have privilege. Like there's some white, like shining knight.
Well, that was even one
out there trying to save the fucking world.
Virtue signaling has.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
It was in my list here. Like, just down unproductive alley. So I kind of wrote a little bit of this down because I wanted to remember it. Before in history, when you wanted to make things better for you and those around you, the best way to do that was become successful yourself. Get a voice yourself. Yep. Get into politics yourself. Right.
Yep.
This is an undeniable thing about the United States. Slavery was ended by a bunch of well-off white people. Anybody that watches Ben Shapiro will hear him. He's got a whole thing on this.
Yeah.
People that had the means, they put themselves in a position to go down south and say, this is immoral, this is unjust, and we're going to stop it.
Yeah.
Fucking leaving college in your third year of studying whatever you're studying to go live in Central Park and hold up a sign isn't helping anybody ever. Saying I stand with this or I support that or any that to protest unproductively it's just a total waste of time. The only way to really affect change is to make your circle of influence and things you can control bigger.
Absolutely.
If you can't get your own family and your extended family, if you can't make sure everybody in that group is doing as good as they can do, then fucking forget about overseas. Any flag you wave, any sign you make, any job you forego for the week because it's not going to happen.
Won't mean anything.
You need a voice. You have to get a voice. You have to get success. You have to get yet again, people will say, well, he's talking about money, but you don't fucking not necessarily. You don't need money. You need to get a platform and a voice to get.
So this is the struggle because I mean we all now have a platform, right? We're previously, again, if you go early 2000s, there was no platform outside of what would basically be peer review, right? If you were to think back to school, you wanted to learn something. How did you learn something? You had to go and you had to pick up.
Find yourself an encyclopedia.
A book, right? You had to find a book, and that book would have to be published. And in order to get published, it would have to be peer reviewed. In order to be peer reviewed, it would have to be agreed upon as fact. Now, everybody and their goddamn dog has a soapbox, and they can just disseminate whatever they want to the world, and everybody will just say, yeah, that more or less aligns with however I feel today.
That's exactly it. It's more or less what I think. So that's probably right.
Yeah, so that must be factual, right? Because it totally suits me. When chances are 98% of that is just bullshit, and the other 2% is some stuff that they saw off of Fox News or whatever.
Yeah,
right? Like
got lucky, a couple percent.
Yeah, exactly. One little piece maybe came from a legitimate source, right? and legitimate is arguable when it comes to Fox News, but
Yeah.
So how do you get a legitimate voice? How do you get a voice of reason? Well, if you think about men and women, how do they articulate themselves? Men think about things. Women feel about things. And so if you raise a man so a single mother raises a young man, he's going to be taught how to feel about things, but he's going to be so conflicted because his brain doesn't work that way. He's going to have to feel things, but he's not going to understand them. So the world is just going to automatically be a web of confusion. And the same is true for, if girls are raised by a single father, and this is not throwing shade on single mothers or single fathers, but if a single father raises girls, those girls are going to be cold and disconnected because they won't know how to feel. They'll only know how to think about things. So then you look at the world of fatherless children. I got all kind after the notes. I apologize because you wouldn't have seen these notes, but I pulled a whole bunch of data on fatherless children in the U.S. The U.S. is beautiful for this because they do gather data. They really do. They pull the shit out of their country.
The petri dish of
right.
Of
I mean, if it's going to go wrong, it's going to be there. I mean, the U.S. is really an experiment for the rest of the world, right from colonization to today.
Oh yes.
And if you're looking to see where it can go wrong, that's probably the first place you should look, right?
To the lower 48.
Now look at the impact on where society is becoming degraded and immoral, and despite the fact that there is a little fly in here, despite the fact that they have all this virtue signaling and everybody thinks they have great ideas, it's still, this experiment is still going wrong. And why is that? Well, fatherless children. That's what I firmly believe. It's fatherless children. So 85% of youth in federal prison, grew up in a fatherless home in the U.S. 70% of the youth in state-operated correctional facilities are from a fatherless home. 39% of school-age children do not have a father at home. Not because he's at work. It's not part of the relationship. Children without a father are 4 times more likely to grow up in poverty. They're twice as likely to drop out of school before graduating. I think that has an impact on their ability to comprehend and think logically and generate positive change in the world. 100%. 33% of U.S. children live in a home where their father's not even present. So, actually not even part of their life. It's not like there's no visitation or nothing. It's just not even there. Girls from fatherless homes are twice as likely to develop eating disorders. 44% of children raised by single mothers are living in poverty. What was interesting about 44% of the children raised by single mothers living in poverty is that over half of their median income is spent on housing cost. So how could they ever hope to get ahead? Right?
Well,
they couldn't.
We'll get into that too.
Right. Now here's an interesting one. 75% of rapists have displaced anger from fatherly abandonment. I didn't expect that one. 75% of substance abuse patients came from fatherless homes. 85% of children with behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. And in today's day and age, as of today, fathers average only 8 hours a week with their kids if they live in the home. So if you're home every day after work, you're spending an hour and 8 minutes a day with your kids.
Yeah.
That's the sum total of impact that you have on your children. After they go to school for 8 hours, they spend time on their iPad, they spend time with their friends, they spend time with whatever other external sources, all these other factors that are coming in and impressioning upon these young minds. And as a dad, you get an hour and 8 minutes a day to turn that child into a useful human being.
Yeah.
So. And Fred just said, yeah, his first grandchild was born in Canada today. So I guess congratulations. Congratulations for that. But he's very, very scared for their future. So that's, it's pretty concerning. What do you not have in your cup?
That was,
You're liking that whiskey, eh?
Well,
It doesn't smell like or doesn't taste like iodine.
well, I'm curious if, being such amateurs into the cigar world, into the Scotch world, if we're more willing to do dumb shit, and then that eureka moment, like, that worked, because that worked. Like I'm getting.
You think?
You don't like it?
I think I'm drinking this whiskey fast because this is probably the most terrible cigar I've ever smoked.
That's unfortunate. I'm digging it.
I got in that first inch and a half to the cusp of the first third, and it's not treating me well. It's bitter. It's bitter. That's what it is. Like I'm not getting sour cream. I'm not getting goat's milk or whatever that other stuff was.
I got like a real heavy smoke cream, but
I'm just getting like
I'm digging it.
Like if I was smoking like stinging nettles or something. No, not getting there.
No way. I could do that. Like I could get a box of these. And it could be my thing. Like I root for the underdog. So when that guy was shitting all over it, I was like, you know what?
Oh, I mean, sure.
Up.
You want to see a guy.
It can't be that bad. And now I don't think it is. I mean, some of the reviews admitted too. They're like, yeah, well, buddy Ryan bought a whole box for St. Patty's and he loved them all. Everybody else hated them.
Well, and that's the unique thing about cigars too, is I mean, you and I could get the same cigar from the same factory, rolled in the same day, even by the same individual, in the same box, and still have a different cigar, have a different experience.
Yeah.
And that's even before it hits our palate. So.
No, I'm digging that.
See my wrappers. I took the band off because it was so loose, but now the wrapper's starting to come.
Oh, now so we've switched. That was me 4 live streams ago, where it all fell apart.
Yeah. Well,
good to see that happen.
This was really, really loose, and it was kind of messing me up. And then now, but I'm seeing this tri band is starting. The green one is starting to unfurl here. So I'm just having to try to give it a little bit of a lick. Try and keep everything. Keep everything intact here.
Are you caught up on the comments?
Yeah, the last one was Fred. There, he's.
Well, cheers to you and your.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your grandbaby.
Shalom, is that what they say? La crime? I don't know what they say, but salut.
So you're wondering too. You certainly. So how do you change this? Who changes this? In 2022, in a modern democracy, you expect that your politicians have your best interests at heart. That's why you dedicate some time out of your day to go down in line.
That is why your employer is willing to pay you 4 hours for you not even to be there.
You're supposed to put some thought into this. You're supposed to read some political platforms. You're supposed to listen to some political debates. And you're supposed to find somebody who you really believe will advance the country in a positive direction.
At the same time as representing your own values, yes.
What we see now is the biggest fucking joke I've ever seen. And this drives me nuts. I only really got involved politically probably in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years. The last political debate for the Conservatives, they actually had that fucking wah-wah every time they brought up Justin Trudeau's name, I believe.
Really, eh?
This is fucking Canada. Like it's not a game. This is not a joke.
Well, it is though. Like if you watch Question Period now, it's all rhetoric. It's all about getting the other guy. It's never about solving the problem. It's never about debating the issue.
It's teeth grinding, gut wrenchingly cringe-worthy TV.
Yeah.
To watch C-SPAN
is worse than reality TV.
It is the most repulsive thing you could ever think that you would watch. Lots of these individuals are educated. They're lawyers. They're accountants. They're generally white collar-ish type people.
They might as well be used car salesmen for as greasy as they all are, though.
And they're all terrible. And what we see now, which drives me crazy, is perpetual fucking campaigning.
Yes.
Nothing happens ever. Everybody from the day they're elected is on the campaign trail.
Sure it is.
We're even seeing it here locally. People can't even finish out the fucking term, finish out the job they were elected to do, the job they were assigned to in a cabinet to do, and it's got to change, got to switch, got to get right into campaigning for the next thing.
Yep.
Nothing, and that's why when they say we're on this road racing down to this fucking dark hole that's going to consume us all, and nobody's pumping the brakes. There's people all over the country that are saying, like, this isn't good. We just don't have the legs to get out there. And anybody that works, that's why you don't have the legs. I had this argument with somebody the other day. If you're a spoiled prick, and you can be a spoiled prick at 60 years old.
Sure,
you can be a spoiled little kid. You don't need to be a 22, 18-year-old spoiled kid living in a multi-million-dollar home to be a spoiled kid. You can be a spoiled kid at 60.
Absolutely, you can.
And that's the only people that run for politics is spoiled kids. They're the only ones with the fucking time. They're the only ones with the financial resources. Well,
they have the resources to be able to pull it off. Yeah.
Everybody else is trying to put food on the table, trying to pay their mortgage, trying to pay their rent, trying to make the car payment, and all of these jerks that were supposed to have your best interest in mind when they got sent to the Capitol in the democracy, anyways. They're mudslinging across the aisle. It's perpetual, and it's just revolting. I wanted to look up the statistics. I just forgot to do it. We see like municipally, fucking 10% voter turnout.
Well,
like nothing.
Yeah, 10% voter turnout. But if you look at municipally, who even shows up to be voted for?
Well, when our county councilor got elected, he ran unopposed.
Yeah, acclamation. Boom, you're the only person that's willing to stick their neck out.
It's literally like the movie The Campaign. Why does Hollywood pump out all these movies that are fucking real? And we all laugh at them like, oh man, that would be brutal, right?
Yeah, right.
That would suck if it was really like that.
Yeah.
And then when you really sit back and think, you're like,
you put your head out the front door and you're like, oh shit, that's us.
Fuck. Right? It's, they don't even need to go find actors. They just walk around with a camera.
Pretty much, yeah.
Here's a blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
It's the dumbest thing
you
going.
You don't need to be a fortune teller by any means, that's for sure. But okay, so then if you get into politics, years ago I used to be naive and I used to think that nobody gets into politics for the wrong reasons. Everybody wants to get into politics to try and change the world for better, right? But then if you look at the political arena now, it doesn't take you very long. Once you're in the political arena and you have a seat at the table and you have the positional authority to make a difference. What is it you're going to discuss? Are we going to discuss things that matter? Or are we going to discuss things that are no business of the government? See that now, like look in the States right now, Roe versus Wade. I don't know what your thoughts on our abortion or the folks at home, what their thoughts on our abortion, but like, why was that ever a government decision?
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. There is a whole line of questioning when it comes to it. At least questions on morality, maybe on it.
Well, like bodily autonomy should be bodily autonomy. Do we really just run out of gas? I mean, this thing is a beast. But oh no, it's going again.
I just don't know how to run it.
Yeah, I think you had it tilted sideways, maybe, but try it again there. But yeah, bodily autonomy should be bodily autonomy, and then there should be certain set circumstances where that's maybe not the case. But those should be well defined, logically, clearly defined. And I bring this in the case of abortion. I mean, I have my own opinion on it, and I'm pretty much, I would say, right of center on this. Is that, and again, I'm a 40-year-old white male, so who the fuck should I? Who am I to even talk about this? But since we're on the subject, should abortion be legal or should it not be illegal? I'm of the mind that it should not be legal, except in the case of where there's been sexual abuse, because I mean that's an absolutely awful thing for anybody to have to go through.
Absolutely. And
there should be a choice in that case, or medical necessity, and that medical necessity thing should be defined, right? Like if it's going to kill the mother, or maybe the baby just doesn't stand any chance of quality of life, I could reconcile myself to get there that there's cause.
Yeah.
But you got kids that, I call them kids. I mean, 20 week pregnancy, and they're aborting for no other reason other than that it's either inconvenient or they're unable to raise the kid. And that's just, that to me, regardless of whether it's right or it's wrong, it doesn't take away the fact that it's still tragic.
I watched a thing the other day because I think I probably would very much align with your views on this. I had to watch the whole thing. It was a young lady talking, and she explained how we got here, how we got to the fact that it had to become a government issue. Abortion has its place as safe, legal, and rare.
Yeah.
And I think most people could probably agree on that. Then it got pushed. I don't believe abortion should be used as birth control. That's where probably
No, there's a whole group of people. My body, my choice. My body, my choice.
there are very cheap forms of contraception.
There were choices made.
Absolutely.
On the night of conception, there were choices made. And in the case where there was not a choice made and it was not consensual,
if other people watch this and get to this point, we're going to get slayed.
We are going to get canceled for sure.
We're going to get slayed.
But you know what?
Whatever. We told it was uncensored.
We told it was live. It was uncensored. It was going to be from the heart.
And our opinions don't mean shit to anyone.
And at the end of the day, neither of us is running for prime minister.
No.
We're just two farmers from northern Alberta, and what do we know about anything? So,
well, that's it, right? We kind of set this thing up for.
All I know is this cigar is absolutely redeeming itself after I said it was awful. So
I'm glad it is, because I'm probably going to give us a block to these.
I just had a bitter patch that was almost unbearable, but I managed to power through it. But
interesting. Okay,
so we talked about abortion. Should abortion be legal? Should it not be illegal? I think instead of debating at the political level whether or not abortion should be legal or otherwise, we should be debating whether it's mandatory. I mean, we just went through the stats on father and what having a fatherless home means.
Yeah.
We should be debating whether or not we mandate fatherly involvement in the child's upbringing.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
And I mean, this is a tangent in terms of, because we're going to talk about men's mental health in a future live stream, I know, but we have touched on it briefly in a few other ones, so I don't mind touching on it now. But the role of the father in the home is critical. Now, imagine you're shut out of your child's life, what that does to your mental health. That's soul crushing. For sure, right? So all of these factors, all of this stuff, can all be prevented just by mandating having a two-parent home. And not necessarily a two-parent home where both parents need to live in the home, but having multi-parental involvement in the child's life.
So,
because
go ahead, sorry.
Again, how do people think? Men think about things. Women think about how they feel, right? The two are very different, and each of us, as we're developing, need that balanced perspective. That doesn't necessarily need to be biologically, right? But I mean, I'm a child of a stepfather, and I think I turned out pretty good. I still have a very balanced perspective on the world. But you see homes where the father is shut out of a child's life because of conflict with the mother. And that's criminal. It's absolutely criminal. Or you see homes where the father abandons all of their responsibility to go do whatever. And I feel that's almost equally criminal.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would even say more, because now you've made the conscious choice to do that. Whereas, on the other hand, that's not your choice, right? You're pushed away, you're pushed out. Often
it's criminal by a different party, right? A mother shutting a father out is criminal on the mother's part. A father abandoning their child is criminal on the father's part, right?
So who then, I guess, in these situations, who gets to mediate? Because we see all sorts of things. You had mentioned earlier, everybody has a platform. We start to look at life coaches. These fucking people, holy shit. What it is, it's another gut-wrenching, fucking cringe-worthy. Listening to these people talk, they're educating young, moldable minds, and the information they're relaying is absolutely deplorable.
It's strange. The life, there's no vetting whatsoever. I mean, you could go on LinkedIn right now. For those of you that are on LinkedIn, go on LinkedIn right now and just search life coach, and you would find tens of thousands of people that have zero life or zero positive life experience, have done nothing with their life other than judge other people. And that's what they do. They're just making you pay for them to judge you and provide advice, when in reality their lives they're absolute train wrecks.
Well, for sure, and there's people with credentials. I had an argument. Well, I call them arguments, but they're just discussions with a person that was getting feed one day, and they were praising psychological community, psychologists, and all sorts of things. I've known a few in my extended family. Everything that they do pisses me off. So I guess in my
psychologists,
so the ones that I know, the ones in my extended family, the way they go about things is the most deplorable fucking attack on situations that. And I told one this.
Why do you think that is?
I said, you do absolutely nothing. What you do is you create an environment, because this is all pay per fucking view stuff. Right?
Sure it is.
So it's all give me $500 for the weekend, come over to the hotel, stay on the 17th floor, we'll rent the conference room, we'll get in there, we'll all wear pajamas, we'll show our tits, we'll do all sorts of things, and we'll, free love, free women, free this, free that, and then not just to the women, but on the men's side as well.
That's the thing.
Oh fuck! It's totally bizarre, totally fucking bizarre. So and it
sounds like a cult.
Absolutely, that's what it is. And I said, what you've done is you've taken a bunch of people with or without real problems, but people that feel they have problems, and they're looking for answers. And now you've left them fucking broke.
Yeah.
You solved nothing. You gave them a weekend of fun, drinking champagne, having pillow fights in the conference room at the fucking chateau.
Another half a mortgage payment poorer.
And then you sent them home Monday morning with a bunch of videos to upload to TikTok, and thinking about, well, what did I get for my $500? I got 6 meals, a room.
Well, that's why I use any of these self-motivation, or not even self-motivation, but motivational speakers in general. I take issue with it, because especially when it gets into things like social media, because you see a 15-second clip or maybe a 30-second clip if you're lucky of them saying something that's seemingly profound. But if you were to attend that seminar, it'd be profound in that moment. If you were to watch that video, it's profound in that moment. But it's not meaningful enough to actually burn itself into your brain. It's not going to actually cross synaptic fire. That's not going to happen. It's going to have instantaneous impact, and you're going to think, oh, that makes total sense. And then when you run across that situation 3 years down the road, you think you're going to actually link that back to your brain to a smart decision? Not at all. It's not going to exist there. It doesn't work like that. So going there and talking about problems doesn't fix problems. You have to experience them. You have to overcome them. You have to face challenges head on. And that's why I have an equal problem with psychologists, psychotherapists, because the research, and again, when it comes to men's health, the research they're working with is biased towards women, and not in any kind of malicious way. In the 1950s, 1960s, when all the research was done on mental health and depression, it was all done on women, simply because they had the time. The men were out in the workforce. That was just their role in society at that point in time. They did not volunteer to go and be a study, because society was a little bit more male stoic at the time, and they didn't really believe in that. However, if they would have actually looked at it objectively from both sides of the coin, you wouldn't have people talking about how they feel so much as how it makes them think about certain things, right? If we think about a problem, we can solve a problem. If we feel about a problem, you could feel one way, I could feel completely different about it, right? As a man, it's how it's going to impact you is going to be completely different than how it impacts me, right? But if we're to look at it objectively as the problem on the table, if it was on paper, if it's like a math problem, the numbers are the same. We get the same problem to solve. Really, really easy to do, right? But we even see that in the school system now, right? We gotta figure out a new way to do math.
Yeah,
And then
lots of them.
Lots of them, yeah.
I mean, some are pretty cool though.
But and that's a bit of a tangent too in the education system. Well, why are we getting dumber as an education system? Well, the education system plays they have a certain amount of skin in the game. They're still teaching irrelevant subject matter. When you release a child, whether they're a child or they're 18 when they graduate, let's not call them a child. When you release a young adult after graduation in the world, are they really ready to face the world? They're not mature enough.
No.
Okay, so that they're automatically handicapped because they're not mature enough, but they're also ill prepared because they don't have the experience. They've not experienced the challenge. They know how to overcome anything, so that when they face that real life challenge, all they can do is feel about it.
Yeah.
Was it any wonder they want to hide in their fucking basement and not do anything about it? No. Teach your kids how to do taxes. Teach your kids how to tell time. Teach your kids what work ethic is. Teach your kids how to make a budget. Teach your kids how to cook. Teach them some life skills. And then we'll focus on the more advanced things that are probably beneficial to them as they pick their vocation. But okay, we look at school-age children. Do we have both parents in the home? No. Do we have any parents in the home? I'll put my hand up and say no, right? My wife's on mat leave right now, but largely both her and I work. Does that have an impact on early childhood development? 100%. 100%. You got kids that used to be able to, spell off their ABCs and do the 2 times table by the time they're 4 years old.
Yeah.
Right? Your kids, when I started school in England, 5 years old, there was kids that could not only spell but write in cursive in 1986. I know 40-year-old men that can't even read cursive now, let alone spell.
Yeah.
So
it is amazing what childhood development can benefit from constant parenting and active parenting, like not just
being there.
I'm home. I make cookies. You watch.
Barney's on the
Netflix,
fucking
right?
TV or whatever. It's not Barney
do.
anymore because I think they did Barney get canceled?
There was some controversy at one point.
Was it because he was gay, and what was it?
I don't know. It was never really my thing, but yeah, there was either some sexual assault issues. He was gay, or he was. I don't know.
They ever watched Mr. Rogers back in the day? They would have. Folks today would have shit.
Well, it's funny. So another thing I had on here with this this descent into a disaster is beyond distasteful comedy. So like, I would wonder. So I was a rig hand. You were a rig hand.
Yeah.
I've had my share of distasteful jokes told to me, and I've told my share of distasteful jokes. There is something to be said for out of sight, out of mind. Right?
Yeah.
5 guys on a drilling crew are going to find things funnier than 5 people at a country club.
That's why they call it dark humor, right? Because it's behind closed doors, it's confined, it's within a group of people that understand the context of it.
No, it's a whole thing. What we get to see now, like even including the whole fucking Will Smith slap and shit. Like I don't watch the Oscars because I don't believe that fucking would provide any form of benefit to my life. That's just a bunch of rich people giving themselves awards for being rich and fucking terrible. But like everybody by now should have seen that. What he said funny?
Was what Will Smith said?
No,
funny?
was what Chris Rock said funny. Joking about her hair.
There's 2 things that occurred there that really bugged me. Chris Rock had no business saying anything about Will's wife. No business. Just have some sense of decency and some chivalry.
Show a little decorum.
Show a little decorum, right? But at the end of the day, Will Smith reacts and he gets up on stage and he slaps the shit out of Chris Rock. I still think that was staged, but regardless, he should have handled his business beforehand. There was a whole thing when his wife cheated on him, and now came back, and they're trying to work through the thing. He should have handled that business. Should have nipped it in the bud right then. And that's the pressure of being in that atmosphere when you're in the public limelight. It's just difficult to do. But did he slap the right guy? No,
probably not.
He should have slapped the shit out of that guy that was fooling around with his missus, and probably kicked his missus to the curb.
Yeah.
And then there would have, jokes could have been told about that, right? It would have been more appropriate.
I was aware of all that. I never delved down there because I guess I didn't give two fucks and I wasn't going to spend any time on it.
Well, no, there's bigger problems in the world, right?
But I really thought, so we watched a lot of movies, and I still do. I watch a lot of movies from the 50s, Clark Gable movies, a couple of really good ones, The Southerner, Boomtown, stuff like that. There's some really funny stuff in there. It's like really good.
So like legitimate humor that doesn't need any kind of perversity.
There's what would be considered now borderline racist humor, especially in Boomtown, where they talk about the natives driving fancy Rolls Royces. Got one in every color in case one runs out of gas, and but even at that time, people for the movie to be made, people understood that it was humor. And now we got comedians I went and seen Dane Cook once. He was, I don't even know where the fuck that guy ever ended up. He was kind of a funny guy, but
he's been canceled for sure.
Well, it all deteriorated to a point of just lowbrow fucking fart jokes, right? And none of this is funny, and yet back to Idiocracy.
Yeah, they got
the biggest movie at the time in Idiocracy was called Ass.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was just 2 hours of fucking an ass on the TV,
farting,
right? Yeah. And everybody was sitting in the movie theater laughing at it.
Yeah,
and I thought, you look at a comedy club where they're talking about friggin' menstrual cycles. They're talking, women comedians are totally gone off the fucking rails. Like I find very little of whatever any of them say fucking funny, and men are equally as bad.
Yeah,
there was a few legends that are gone now that were undeniably funny, and the next generation that picked up the mic at open mic night, they're just saying shit for the shock and awe factor, and it's just shockingly awful.
Well, yeah, you got guys like Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, those guys that they could say something shocking, and they could say it without civilized language, right? They could drop F-bombs like a champ.
Oh yes,
right. And so where do you go from there? And that's where that societal desensitization comes in, right? So once the F-bomb's on the table, where do you go from there?
Yeah,
because that's what the expectation is now.
And that's that kind of used to be the line, right? I mean, that we're like, ooh, he swore. So now
it's just Elvis Presley wasn't allowed to dance, right? They're making a movie about him now, and this one guy says, "Don't you so much as wiggle a finger," and that's where that famous move, where he's like wiggling his finger because he's just pushing the line, and that's. You mentioned earlier about the biblical side of things, and the original sin is that we've never ever been able to follow the rules. Never been able. That's the one dirty side of human nature, is that if there's an established rule, a line in the sand anywhere, we've always just got to cross it.
Even as simple as eat from all of these trees, just don't
that one, right? Yeah, you could have everything in the world, just don't do this one thing.
Which segues me right into my last point is Hollywood as a whole, the music scene, the friggin' I seen so I'll be the first to admit I don't even really listen to the radio. I'm generally 24/7 with earplugs in because I like quiet. I like to be alone with my thoughts.
It's louder shit at your place usually with the mills going and stuff.
As dumb as they are, I like to just be alone with them.
That's your zen.
So there was somebody called Post Malone. I'm sure the fucking 7 people on here probably don't know the fucking guy.
There was. Did he die?
No, I think he's still a singer.
Okay.
And so he's fucking jumping around, dressed like a old Handmaid's Tale fucking girl, I think. There's smoke rising up, and I don't know what the fuck the song was about, but it was to me, and I guess you don't have to be a 78-year-old man to be like have conservative values. At 34, I think I sold some conservative values, and I thought this is fucking weird for the sake of weird. Like, this is not entertaining to me. This is fucking dumb.
Is it because he wants to be a woman, or is it because he wants to shock people?
Well, I don't know. So then I read, because a lot of this stuff that I've been doing lately is reading kind of the headlines or watching the headline, and then I read the comments.
Yeah.
So on this TikTok video, and a lot of people were like, like, has he got a coming out thing happening here, or what the fuck is going on? Because nobody really understands. And then, as I think the way that I don't know if they're called cookies or the algorithms or whatever the fuck they're called, how that all works is, if you watch the whole 15-minute clip, something triggers, and then the next clip
it says, "Oh, you like that, yeah."
So then I get into that's why I had mentioned Cardi B earlier, and so I end up with this 15-second clip of somebody at a Cardi B concert, and she's deep throating the microphone, and like fucking, they're all basically naked on stage in lingerie or whatever, jumping around, shaking their asses, and I thought, like, of the 50,000 people in the arena, you have to imagine there's loads of teens and underage kids and preteens and young adults, moldable minds that are idolizing this. And then, in regards to the people that can't buy their own tickets on their credit cards, and who the fuck bought them the tickets?
Yeah.
And why are they there? And then as a whole thing, why the fuck are we even, like, why aren't these people canceled? Like, yeah. I mean, we're canceling everything for critical thinking. You're fucking gone.
Yeah. If you're willing to speak up and say anything that seems objectively true, like if you're to say a man is a man, as a woman is a woman,
gone,
done.
Whatever.
And I said it now, so we're done. I guess we're fucked now. But
we didn't have much.
Came out of my mouth. We're done. Yeah, no, we got 7 people, so whatever. But anyways, we said it. We're canceled. But if you were to say that in society, you're legitimately you're challenged.
These 7 won't cancel us. It'll be the 85 after that.
It'll be the other ones that will report us. Yeah. No, that's the thing, and I even wrote that down. Right, like feminism. Right, like motherhood. Motherhood now is devalued. Right. This whole thing about women want to become men and men want to become women, and if they want to do that, I mean that's one thing. But the whole argument about biologically, what are you? I mean, at the end of the day, just buy a t-shirt. You're gonna buy a men's t-shirt. You're gonna buy a woman's t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like it just is what it is, right? I was really, really upset when my last daughter was born. She was born 4 months ago. And you fill out the birth certificate, and what does it give you the options? It doesn't even give you the option to be the father or the mother of your own fucking child.
Really?
Your parent 1 or your parent 2. And the options it gives you is male, female, two-spirit, binary or non-binary, or other. Other. Like there's all these other categories that exist. And at the end of the day, I just want to be my daughter's father.
Yeah.
That's all I want to. And that's how I identify. But I'm, as a 40-year-old white male, am taken to task for being who I actually am. And again, if we get canceled, we get canceled. But at the end of the day, it has to stop there, because that's who a guy is. It's how we identify, not because that's what I chose because it's Tuesday. It's not Tuesday. I guess it's the Friday. But at the end of the day, that's who I am. It's not because it was a decision I made. It's biologically, it's who I am. It's with situations, cards that were dealt to me. And there's no denying it. It is factual, biologically factual. And the government of not only our country, but many other countries can't even get there. Right?
No way.
So
not even close.
And to me, I've said it before in previous videos, I obviously don't believe in feminism. I don't put a lot of stock in feminism. I think it served its purposes right up until the early 1920s, 1930s, when women got the right to vote and the right to hold office, and they could have influence. But feminism as it is today in the 2020s is no different than fascism, right? It's a misogynistic value that's talking about one gender's supremacy over another gender. And what's crazy about it is that we'll actually have feminist males now.
Oh yeah, we have
Right.
we have our fucking leader.
Exactly. Well, people kind. No, it's not people kind.
That's more out of touch. You know, when you say something so fucking stupid and then get called out for it and then instantly backtrack because you're gaslighting and you're projecting onto a group of people that you think are going to accept this.
Well, only a fucking pedophile liberal drama teacher would ever think that was an acceptable value to hold.
Not very good.
Like,
we're
getting canceled. I don't even care anymore. We said it was uncensored.
We got like fucking 15 cups to give away.
We got cups. We got coffee cups. We got whiskey glasses. We got humidors. Please don't report us. I promise. It's going to be good.
We didn't want it.
But okay, so that's feminism. Getting rid of tradition. Why don't we do things? We think about, it would be really good if, we knew we were in the good old days before the good old days were gone. I've heard that said before. Tradition it seems to disappear. Nobody upholds tradition anymore. And then there's this whole immigrant population that comes into society, and we really give them a hard time. We really do.
Yeah.
They're coming here and they're stealing our jobs, and they want to make this place their place, and their place was shit.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to bring Islamic law into Canada.
Yeah, Sharia law.
So yeah, whatever that is, right? So, okay, well, we can't even follow our own goddamn laws.
We're standing behind absolutely fucking nothing.
Right? We got a virgin country with, the Prime Minister did say that Canada has no culture. I don't agree with that.
No.
Canada has a fairly short history of some pretty brutal, ignorant stuff. The treatment of the First Nations population, I do not support that one bit.
No.
However, that doesn't give us ground to stand and say, well, all these other nations are coming in and they're ruining our traditions. What do you have that you're willing to stand up for today and say that you're going to follow and you're going to hear and you're going to stick to? How many people give up something for Lent anymore?
How many fucking people know what it is?
How many people even know what it is?
Yeah, very, very few.
Very few. Very few people know what it is, let alone will go 40 days without eating a goddamn chocolate bar or have a glass of wine or whatever it is, right? So pretty concerning. You want to shit on other people coming in, bringing their traditions. But what was our country founded on? If you were to look at the population, again, going back to 1950, what was the population of Canada? Was entirely immigrant. Aside from obviously even the First Nations people at some point in time immigrated to North America through the Bering Strait or however they got here. Yeah. Aliens, I'm not sure how they got here. Regardless, we all got here from somewhere. And if we want to make a stand on these traditions, we have to make a stand on these traditions. But that means we have to follow them. Now, recently I just heard we're not at war with Denmark anymore. Well, okay. We've been at war with Denmark for like 100 years. Over this, there's a little island. It's disputed territory between Canada and Denmark. And every year we would go there, we'd put a bottle of whiskey down, and the folks in Denmark would come over, they drink the bottle of whiskey, they put their flag up, and they take our flag down, and they leave schnapps or whatever they fucking drink in Denmark, right? And then we would go there with our canoe, and because we don't have any working submarines anymore, but we paddle over there and we drink the schnapps and take down the Denmark flag and put the Canadian flag up. And it was a thing, right? It wasn't a big thing,
news to me,
but it was called the Whiskey War. And a small tradition, but this year, done. We won't even do that anymore. We won't even, it's done.
Oh, so who now? Denmark wins?
Well, I think we just decided to split the island in half.
Oh, okay. Introverts, you stay on your side.
Yeah, I'm just going to stay on my side of the bunk bed, and you stay on your side of the bunk bed, and there'll be no activities.
Fun.
Sounds like a real fun party, doesn't it?
I'm not about that. That's hilarious. That's a war.
The Whiskey War. It's a big thing. It's been one of Canada's longest serving traditions that we've actually had.
Oh, wow.
Don't even do it anymore. cigar just went out, but the last one I want to talk about was. Do you have anything left on your list, or?
I don't know. We kind of crushed through everything. I had garbage, I had social media, I had politics, I had morals, but morals is one we call green everything. That's one thing that got me too. Like living
Green everything, yeah.
I read this article and I've looked. I told you about this article a long time ago, and I've looked for it since. And it was. I'm not exactly sure what exactly the premise of it was, but it was or the whole actual idea of it was the guy that either came up with the idea of internal combustion engine or he invented it or whatever, but he never used it. So it wasn't Ford. It wasn't any of the. It was just a guy.
It was a guy way before.
Yeah, that sort of came up with
the horseless carriage before.
But the whole thing, and this guy spent time and time building this fucking thing, and but he never used it. He never used the fucking thing.
He invented it, gave it to society.
He perfected it. He designed it. He built it, and everybody else cherry picked off his idea. And then came up with what we know today.
Sharing's caring.
And I thought to myself, like, aren't we? What are we rushing right now? Everybody, at least I think, and one of the only ways to get through life is to assume that people are good and they're doing the right things. So my assumption is there's fucking people behind the scenes building vaccines, building cures, building fucking green energy, and they're doing all of these things that maybe in their lifetime they'll never get to use because they're building the technology.
Who was the guy that built the hydrogen bomb?
Well, there was a group of them.
There was one guy. I forget his name now. That was his biggest on his deathbed. That was his biggest regret was developing that technology.
Okay.
And then it being used on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, right? For such evil destruction, right? Regardless whether you call it evil or not destruction, killed tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Right. And here we are now. I mean, Russia's doing its thing with Ukraine, and everybody's sitting there, finger on the trigger, like, where's it going to go? That's what we see now, right? Is all of these people working on these technologies with good intentions.
Well, we see lots of memes. I seen one today. Put out there that that Greta Thunberg, and the meme was her saying, "I want everybody to drive electric cars now," and then below was a very, very young black child saying, "Okay, Greta, we're mining lithium as fast as we can here." This push for green energy with no understanding, like, I don't believe it exists, and it was in if it wasn't in my YouTube video on my other channel earlier, it's going to be fuck. I can't keep batteries going to save my life. I'm boosting all fucking day long. The most important thing a farmer can own is a fucking good set of booster cables. It's about 40 feet fucking long because the equipment's so big now, you can't even get up close to it. You got to boost from the other side of the fucking yard.
It's exciting that we're thinking about that stuff, but it's not. We're not ready to jump in with both feet.
And that's where I'm at with this when I bring up this green everything. Are people that naive and crazy to think that because you get into the, if you go to the far side, either way, left or right, is, oh, this technology does exist. The first car was electric.
Oppenheimer, that's who it was. And if he just said, yeah. Well, and Chad's in too. Just got him at 190 bales this afternoon.
Oh, didn't get no rain either then.
I bet you he doesn't have a battery operated baler either.
Well, fuck it. Like, I told a person that was getting feed one day, and they said, well, you and your dad, you only work the rigs. My dad worked the rigs his whole entire life. I worked the rigs for 11 years or whatever it was. Well, you guys don't really, you don't understand. You don't care the same way we do. And I looked at him and I said, do you honestly believe, my parents bought a Toyota Highlander hybrid in 2004 or whatever the fuck. Like, it was one of the, it was fairly new then. It was a half gas, half electric thing. We are very much excited about new technology that we're very aware of our waste, and we try to recycle what we can, where we can, if at all possible. If somebody came into my yard and said, you know what, we got this 4-wheel drive tractor, it's all electric, you don't have to worry about internal combustion engine problems, you don't have to change oil, you don't have to worry about drivetrain components, it's all It's got all the horsepower you need. It's instant to run all the machinery you have. Do you fucking think we wouldn't consider it? Of course we would. We'd probably get it. Internal combustion engine tractors are fucking expensive now. Anyways, they're $700,000-$800,000 for big ones. Of course we would consider it.
Consider it for sure.
Of course. We don't just hate it because it's green. If somebody told me we can put up a windmill here, and if the government would get the fuck out of the way, apparently I didn't even realize this. You cannot be a net exporter of energy. If you want to set up solar, you're only allowed to set up the capacity that you will use year round. So in the summer, you can export that energy back to the grid. Right. And in the winter, you have to buy the energy back. You're only allowed to set up what you can. So they're back to politics. Who the fuck put that in there? Like, we, up here in Northern Alberta with our 19 hours of daylight in the summer.
Yes. If
every farmer had this shit on their bins, be it we bought it or it was subsidized, however that could be, things could change. The government doesn't even allow for that.
They don't. No.
They do not want that to happen. But you'd have to be totally off your rocker if someone come out and said, we can supply you power and a battery bank to run your farm. You'll never pay a friggin' energy bill again. It'd be like, fuck that. I want to burn coal and oil. No, nobody would say that. Almost no. I love it.
Better just come back away from the laptop just in case. It might shut us down.
So that's and when I made that point, for those reasons, I really thought that was that fit right into how dumb we are. We actually have government rules that say we shouldn't. We shouldn't.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't do that.
Fred just said, I'm guessing you guys haven't been informed. All farm equipment now runs off unicorn farts and rainbows. And it's an interesting concept. Even if you think about the Tesla car, that's pretty exciting.
It is exciting.
Basically a self-driving car, right? Or has the capacity to do that. Runs off a battery. It's no different to me than a diesel electric drilling rig.
Nope.
You plug that thing into your house. Where does that power come from? The power comes from the grid. Where does the grid come from? There is a giant, and you don't have to go very far. We don't only have to go to 8 of 19, 73 of 8, which is just 2 townships over, or 2 ranges over, to find the natural gas power station. We're burning dinosaur farts. We're not burning unicorn farts all day long to power all those Teslas. All we're doing is we're taking the energy and we're just deferring, instead of burning diesel or gasoline immediately in the vehicle, we're just taking that out of sight, out of mind, and pushing it down the road to one of these substations, one of these generating stations. And until the day comes that we can get enough wind, get enough sun, get enough wave power, hydro, whatever it is to capture the energy within the earth, which the technology, although may exist, is still, despite having been in existence for 50 years, in a fledgling state.
Yeah, well, it's deficient.
It's very deficient.
The demands.
No, that's right. And until I honestly think nuclear is probably the way to go, but we haven't figured a way to really control it, to really make it safe, and to really get everything we can get out of it.
Yeah.
So until we do that, we're just mining lithium. We're just continuing to exploit the earth. And again, 8.9 billion people. I don't want to sound like Klaus Schwab here, but I mean, at a rate of consumption right now, 8.9 billion people are over consuming the resources the planet has.
Absolutely.
Right. And I don't mean to sound like a globalist or a population control kind of guy. That's not what I'm saying. But if we continue to not think about things like this, we're going to continue to spiral out of control.
And even at that, I was watching one guy who was talking about a wind farm in Saskatchewan. So it's already being decommissioned. So something that I haven't looked a lot into because I wasn't interested in it. But 25 years old that fucking thing is.
Yeah.
So they built this massive infrastructure that has a 25-year shelf life. And then right away, you don't have to Google very far or look very far or read very, and they got a fucking dozer because apparently the blades aren't recyclable.
So they have to bury them.
They're covering them with dirt. So you got another mound of garbage for 25 years worth of power.
We should look into that. We should look into see whether that's factual because I've seen that. I've seen that picture on the internet where they're burying these blades, and I want to know. I want to know if we're missing some context on that.
Well,
and the reason I want to know they're missing context is because, like many other people that probably watch our channel, that have seen stuff on social media, have probably seen the fact checkers out there deleting posts or covering posts or whatever it is because it lacks context.
Yeah.
Okay. It's great for you to shut me down and say, well, this isn't really the whole story. You shouldn't give this snippet of the story because it lacks context. Okay. What's the rest of the story?
Yeah.
Now, okay, well, am I going to go to the internet and find the rest of the story? Because the internet is a fucking cesspool of information, and how could you ever hope
It's a terrible rabbit hole.
to differentiate? So, I mean, a guy's going to have to dig pretty hard, but that's one thing I want to dig on that one. I want to dig on that one and see exactly is that really happening, and why is it happening? Are we really not able to recycle it, or is it because we're not able to recycle it because it uses more energy to recycle than it does to rebuild? Because I've seen that where even pop cans now, they're saying it uses more energy to recycle pop cans than it does to actually just mine and build new ones.
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we need to look at alternative options here instead of just crushing them and burying them, right? Sending all this garbage to the landfill or floating it out in a barge into the ocean.
Well, that whole thing too is another. So we were at the Save On the other day, and I was thinking to myself, and it's come to me every year with spraying. So we're buying this shit in jugs, and some jugs are super thick and they're hard to fucking puncture, and some are super thin, and there's all sorts of chemicals, and there's and fucking jugs. Jugs are a real problem for agriculture.
Oh,
jugs and jugs and jugs.
Everything
and jugs
is in a
and
jug.
Fucking jugs. And I was thinking, like, with the building of double lane highways and the building of Kenworth trucks and trailers, would it not make more sense to fucking bulk this shit up somewhere? And then there's IBC totes all over the place. I mean, we bought 150 of them on our farm to supply molasses to people, which is a prime example of this. You could get molasses built in a central area, shipped up to a distributor, packaged into reasonably reusable fucking containers, and there's almost no waste. The odd IBC tote gets wrecked, but that's that. We're going through 200-400 plastic jugs a fucking year of all different sorts of chemicals, and I'm thinking the odd stuff you can get in barrels, and then you find out that the barrel doesn't have a deposit.
So I'm not going to ask you what you do with yours because that would get you canceled, but what largely happens to a lot of plastic on farms?
Well, there is a recycling at CCS here, but largely they get burnt.
They get burnt. Yeah.
So
net wrap, silage wrap, plastic jugs.
Well,
it does one of two things: either gets burnt, or it goes maybe one of three things: blows away, ends up in Sexsmith. Sorry, Sexsmith. Or it goes to Tervita or Secure and gets clay capped, buried in a landfill where it's never going to degrade. Or it will degrade and it's going to form microplastics and kill all the fish, right?
There was a guy I was watching on TikTok too. He's in a battle with the Saskatchewan government.
Yes, because that's exactly what he does. He recycles all the grain bags.
How the fuck is this guy getting in a battle? He should be getting funded.
He should be 100%. He should be getting a government grant for recycling silage or grain bags.
And like so that's bad. That's why this politics hit a bullet point for the Dawn of Dumb. Who the fuck? Like what are they doing? What are they actually doing aside this perpetual campaign? Why aren't they actually tackling real issues? Saying, you know what, we got 10 fucking million jugs across Western Canada, Saskatchewan, Northern BC, Alberta, and Manitoba that we got to do something with. Now there was a plan put out where they're going to supply you with plastic bags now, and I think you can take them back to the distributor. So that's something. I guess we got 53 dry vans.
That's a real greasy thing, though, right? So then you get a single point distributor that can a single point contract. Somebody's greasing somebody at a high political level. Say, I'm gonna be the guy, right? And that's the one nasty, dirty truth about Canada is that for all we say in the media, we love monopolies.
Oh, good Lord!
Right at the highest level of this company. we love, or the country, sorry, we love monopolies. The individual farmer, the individual producer, the individual consumer does not. But there is nothing that we purchase, nothing that we consume that doesn't funnel up to maybe one or two different companies.
Yeah.
BlackRock, Vanguard, all of it, right? Like, I mean, that's a bit tinfoil hat, but that is the reality, right?
Live stream number 11.
Maybe that is, yeah, no doubt, right? But so left a comment here. Chad says, I'm all about stuff that works. I've been in John Deere 2 days in a row by the electrical sensors and cables being brought. We are a long ways from battery operated crap that will self-drive. Yeah, I heard a thing. What was this? If the grass is green, but over here it's greener. And if she drives a John Deere, she better not touch my wiener. And then he said, my brother works cranes that fix those windmills. Those cranes south of Grand Prairie are not making their lifespan by half. Can cost upwards of $180,000 in crane work alone to change the blades on one. Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. I think the windmill served its purpose when it was, in the 1800s in Holland, and they were being used to grind grain.
Yeah, pump water.
Or to pump water, right? That there's a certain amount of energy that they can supply, but you're asking more of it, and you need to advance the technology, whether it's turbines or what it is, but you need to advance that technology in some way that it's sustainable, right? And Kevin from Landlust says there's a net wrap baler twine recycling program in BC. It needs to be completely clean of all organic matter. I'd be interested to find out how much they get. And yeah, I'd be interested to know if you had silage bales, how in the hell you would get it clean of all organic matter.
And yeah, I would wonder why that matters. So, like, what's the process? And
I've seen facilities in Europe. I know the technology exists where they run it through. It's like a giant wood chipper, basically. They chop it all up and they wash it right then and there, and all that organic material flows out. And hopefully it doesn't go into a river and kill a bunch of trout or something like that. But they do wash it and are able to recapture that plastic and recycle that plastic. But yeah, it would be interesting to determine what happens to the runoff from those facilities, right? You know what?
You're back into sour milk?
I'm back into
this has been pleasant the whole entire time. And I've gotten a certain amount of joy watching you struggle.
The middle was good.
Like the saddest.
The beginning was okay, and then
well, look at it. You're just a fucking mess. You got your wrap coming off.
Oh yeah, it's just
this thing is a jam.
Amateur hour. It's like I don't know. It's literally like the first time I'm trying to have a cigarette here. It's just terrible. Anyways,
the wrong end.
Fred says, speaking of Monopoly, Rogers Wireless.
Oh fuck.
Was
You're
that
getting $3 back though?
$3 from where?
From Rogers. It's a big class action suit.
Who's getting $3?
No, Rogers said they'd give you $3 back. I'm not with
on
Rogers.
What? On your phone bill?
I think so.
What about your Interac?
No, fuck no.
No. Yeah, let's just cripple the country.
You pay like $180 a month for shit service.
I really wonder what that costs the economy. I really do, because I was at the swimming pool today, and the Interac machine was down, and the lady said, "Oh, the machine is down. You just go ahead and just go swimming or whatever." It was mighty kind of them, and I know for a fact that facility cost $12.2 million because I was on the committee that built that facility. And I said, "No, I have cash." Because cash is king, right?
Yeah.
I've always got a little bit of cash on me. I don't have a lot of cash on me, but I always got a little bit of cash on me just in case the guy gets in a bind.
So you don't want to get robbed.
I'm going to pay my way because I know if I don't pay, somebody's going to pay. And it's probably going to be a taxpayer. Why should my benefit be the loss of somebody else? Just so I can spend an hour in a swimming pool frolicking. So I'm going to pay. But you think of the whole crash of the Interac system, how much did that actually happen? How many transactions didn't occur? And how many free ones were handed out?
It's a big deal. And then Calgary come out and said there was a bunch of unpaid tabs and stuff that day.
Well, I don't doubt it.
Well, it's funny you bring up.
But I bet you Rogers isn't accountable for that. I bet you they won't recoup it or give any of that money back.
I think they're in the top 5 richest Canadian families.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
It's funny you say wanting to pay. I got into a bit of a tisk with our internet provider. And I phoned him, and I had a long chat with the guy. I said, "How can this not work? Like, there is nobody closer to the tower. Like, I can see the tower. I even direct line of sight to the tower.
Yeah.
How can this not work?" Well, he gave me all the shit. I said, "No, I'm not buying this. I want to talk to a tech because
you're under the
right
umbrella.
away you get the customer service guy. Right?
Sure.
I said, I want to know." So I asked this guy. I said, "What do you need?" From what I understand, the federal government pumped in a tremendous amount of money to get rural internet. All these providers come out of everywhere. They all come out of the woodwork. All these fucking freeloading people say, "Oh, we can do this. We can put fiber optics here. We can put towers there. We can do wireless here and on." And it's still terrible. It is still terrible.
Oh, it's shameful.
So, anyways, we talked. I learned a tremendous amount about how this works. And he says, "You know what? I'm going to put you through to customer retention or whatever. We should be able." I said, "I don't want to not fucking pay the bill. That's all. I don't want to talk to those people.
You want your shit to work.
I want to know why it doesn't work and what the fuck we can. I would rather write my local MP, my local MLA, my local whatever, and say, look, I just talked to the fucking tech. He said we need A, B, C, and D for this to work. And the government promised billions or millions or hundreds of millions or whatever the fuck they promised. And they said we'd get rural internet to rural Alberta and rural Canada. And this is what they need. I don't want to pay I don't want to not pay my $140 a month. Because you know what? Not paying for something that doesn't work that's not the fucking answer either.
No, give me the facts so I can go to my MLA and I can express the challenges to him and he can go on my behalf to the federal government and advocate for those changes.
Exactly. I think
I want two things. I want water on the fucking reserves and I want high-speed internet.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like even our little business, it totally crippled the day because my wife wasn't able to wireless print the invoices and stuff for people right away or send them out.
Terrible.
And that was the thing. If it hadn't been for the fact that I had read the article that the federal government, the provincial governments pumped a lot of money in, that's what happened around here. That's why all these shitty towns got fucking fiber optics and all this stuff that doesn't even work. Yeah. They got and the last I think it cost like $800,000.
But they got to understand that the federal level, they need to understand all these small businesses. And we were talking about giant corporations like Rogers. Their bottom line, they maybe took a little bit of a hit on their stock price or whatever. But at the end of the day, they're all right. But every small business that couldn't make a transaction that day, there was literally children that could not eat.
Yeah.
Right. He took food out of children's mouth because of a fucking monopoly. Tell me that. And it is criminal. It's legitimately criminal. And yet we allow it to happen. Anyways, that's a bit of a we said we were going to be uncensored and fired up.
Well, yeah, but it's not. It all highlights how dumb things are, right? So, and back to that, how intelligent is it to have a real problem and the solution is like, well, we'll give you $40 off.
Yeah, let's not fix the problem.
I don't want your fucking charity. I don't want to not pay for this.
Yeah, I don't want your mild appeasement. I don't want your sympathy. I want you to actually fix the problem.
And that's what I told him. I said, not paying for something that doesn't fucking work anyways. That's not a. I don't. We'll give you a month free, I think is what he said.
That should be a given.
I said, a month free of what? It doesn't fucking work.
Yeah.
Because I think that might have been what it was. We can give you a month free service. It wasn't going to be a credit back or anything. We'll give you a month free. And I said that.
That's like saying, okay, well, I'm going to open the tap in my kitchen sink and nothing's going to come out, but I won't have to pay the power bill to run the water well.
Right, exactly.
Well, of course you won't, because it's not going to goddamn well work.
It doesn't even work. And that's what we want. We want to be productive, and we want things happening. And at the bottom line of that, they fucking told us they could do this. Those companies that pulled out into rural Canada said, we can build this infrastructure. We can maintain this infrastructure. And we can get it operational.
And where's the accountability?
And then, you see, the joke too, because I watch quite a few of these left-leaning guys on TikTok now. And the big joke right now is apparently Alberta was given like $4 billion for COVID measures. and we had a $4 billion surplus, but they can't explain where the $4 billion COVID measure money
Because
went.
we actually went to work.
And I was thinking, like, if that's true too, isn't that fucking funny? Because I've really opened my mind and my horizons to kind of all sides, and I see it with my little gypsy business. I got people from the farthest left and then the farthest fucking right, so all in there, and I've really opened my mind to all of what they have to say. And there's some great points in all of it, and I wonder, how do we keep, certainly in northern Alberta, how do we keep electing the same exact ideology over and over and over and over again, expecting it to change?
Better the devil you know, and unfortunately that ends up with the definition of insanity,
we know
right?
It's the definition of insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over and over again, expecting something to change. And that is one thing I can definitely say. Having been a rig hand and being in agriculture and now starting my own business, I really don't think the Albertan conservative is the fucking has the right answers. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's they might be the lesser of two evils, but I certainly don't think, and this was kind of, I think it was in one of these points, this fanboying thing to be like just fucking blue blood, no, like come hell or high water. I don't think that's a benefit. Now, I'm not saying you gotta like run out and vote for the farthest fucking left party you ever heard of. That's not what I'm saying. But this jumping up and down and waving all sorts of fucking flags with whatever written on them, we all know that. Like, this getting a little old too. Like,
no, but we so electoral reform. Do we need electoral reform in Canada? Yes, we do. So we do have equal representation, but we also need to consider, how is it that political candidates for a specific party are selected, right? So if you do want to just stick to the primary colors, red, blue, or orange. I mean, orange obviously isn't a primary color, but you know what I mean, right? The three major parties that we typically have, if you want to stick to them, how is it that a candidate is selected to run for those parties?
I don't understand why we still even have a political system or a party system in Canada.
It's money.
Like, I don't get that. You should run much like our county councilors and things on municipal levels do. You should run without a party. What the fuck? Like, what an northern Albertan conservative needs is even much different than a conservative living in Edmonton, which is sure the fuck a lot different than a conservative living in Ontario.
Is it though? Or is it the fact that we have people in political positions that don't represent the values of their constituents?
Well, I think that's exactly it. But the reason they don't is because they're towing political party lines. So you want to run up here, you want to run as a conservative. If your conservative leader has a really deep roots to,
so they're pandering. They're pandering to the wishes of the leader of the party.
So then you think, and if you think you know this person on a personal level or on a like an area specific level, and you're like, this is my guy, he's the conservative guy. All of a sudden you find out he's the fucking he can only vote the way that the leader wants.
He has no influence whatsoever.
And you're thinking like, well, fuck, that wasn't any good. So then you run to the next thing and you think like, well, fuck, this person runs under a different color, but really has more of my specific interests in mind. However, the fucking leader is a total buffoon. Can't stand what they stand for. And then so you're in this circle of insanity. You're electing out what you hate to elect in the lesser of two evils, what you hate in 8 years. So then you elect them out, and nothing changes.
Well, so we try to elect what? We try to elect for local representation, but ultimately we have to elect for the leader of the party. And unfortunately, the leader of the party oftentimes does not represent your interests.
Which, I guess I hadn't really, in my rage of political parties, I hadn't really thought of someone does have to manage the country. But when you watch, and we talked about this earlier, when you watch what they're doing in the House of Commons, it's a total fucking disgrace from one side to the next, right? There was that big scandal of the Conservatives laughing at the NDP leader who was talking about what 1 in 4 Canadians are having to make the decision between groceries and rent or something, and they had laughed. And of course, that was, he said you should be ashamed of yourself for laughing, and I agree with that. It's not fucking funny.
That's not funny at all.
However, back to your context point, what they were laughing at is they fucking told them this would happen.
Yeah,
that's what they were laughing at.
Yeah.
None of it's fucking funny, but the whole.
It's the irony of the situation. Right?
But all of the whole. The whole room is based around contradicting and fighting with the other side.
It's rhetoric, yeah.
And then nothing gets done. Like, because I've watched quite a bit of it over the last few years. I've yet to see anybody answer a fucking question. And the thing that drives me crazy is very much like we're doing here. They get asked a question and then they start looking down.
Yeah.
And they're reading something.
We're working hard for Canadians.
And I thought,
that's exactly what they do.
Why the fuck do you take a piece of paper into the House of Commons? When someone asks you a question, you shouldn't already know what they're going to ask you.
Yeah.
And have time to write some bullshit dialogue that doesn't even answer the question.
You shouldn't know what they're going to ask you. And also, you should understand the issues that face the people you represent.
So you should be able to either answer the question to the best of your ability, no matter what the rest of the country will think of your answer, or you should be able to stand up and have the sand to say, I don't know. That's a good point. We'll get back to you on that.
Yeah,
I don't know what we're doing on that.
I'm going to allocate some resources to find an answer to this problem.
We've been elected the leaders of the country.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a chat about this. That's a question we can't answer at the moment. We'll get back to you next session.
But that problem transcends politics, though. It really does. Even if we're to think at an individual level, somebody comes to you and presents you with a problem. What is human nature to do? Human nature is to say, I'm under attack and I therefore need to defend myself. And so we what do? we naturally just try and we gaslight the other individual. We try to turn the tables on them. We try to make the person the problem as opposed to the problem the problem.
Yeah.
We try to counterattack the individual as opposed to say, you know what, God damn, I'm being held accountable. And accountability only ever feels like a personal attack if you're not meeting expectations.
Absolutely.
Right?
But
if we just practice as society, whether it was political or at an individual level, if we just took that and exercised a little humility and just said, you know what, I appreciate your concern and your insight, and we're going to whether it's strike a committee or a task force or whatever, but we're gonna look into the merit of your concern, and maybe it's a thing, and maybe we'll do something about it. Maybe we'll come back and we'll discuss this further. But I don't have an answer for you today. If more people could do that, we'd solve a lot more problems.
Exactly.
Instead of just spending hours and thousands of hours and hours and hours just literally bullshitting each other and doing nothing.
Well, and I said you had said it. We're nitpicking. We're trying to deflect the problem onto, well, at least we don't do this, right? At least we didn't do that. No, that's not what I asked you. I didn't fucking ask you that.
You're saying, well, I'm pretty shitty, but I'm not as shitty as that guy.
And that's where we're at with North American, the Western world politics.
And I don't care if you say I'm shitty, but I'm not as shitty as that guy. You're actually shittier than that guy because you're just deflecting all of the responsibility, all the accountability that you should bear, the burden you should bear upon somebody else, and it's childish.
Well, and it's funny. So, and this, right? Because none of this is actually a tangent when you talk about, the dawn of dumb, the dawn of idiocracy. We were talking about somebody's house, and it wasn't very clean, and the response was like, "Well, you should see a friend of mine's. Right? It's not that bad." The moment you start to compare yourself down, you fucking end up going down. Because your 100%. Expectations get so lower that you're like, well, at least it's not that bad, and then you get comfortable.
You do. Really,
and then
really
you
quick.
start to descend into a lower and low, and that's what's happening. We're comparing, instead of comparing yourself up. We can't do that. We're either jealous or envious or fucking petty. We cannot compare ourselves up and be like, you know what, that fucking individual's doing pretty good, and that's great for them. And I wish that for myself. Instantly, it's criticism and it's fucking rhetoric and it's terrible and it's awful and it's rumors and it's, well, if only this and if only that. You can't go up because you have to just be petty about it. So you look down and you're like, well, at least it's not that bad.
Well,
And then you sink.
You think about the monarchy. Why does the monarchy exist?
Well, fuck, I don't know.
You don't know. A lot of people don't know. Well, what point did what?
I would have punted that whole family out 100 years ago.
100%.
And I'd have a room for all the homeless people in the UK.
But you would think about it. And what is the purpose of it? And if you were to ask the Queen today, what's the point of the monarchy? She's answered this question many, many times. What's the point of the monarchy? The point of the monarchy is to give something to the common person to aspire to.
Yeah.
Right.
And they suck.
And they don't do a very good job at it, right? Prince Andrew, and I actually wrote this down as a footnote, right? But Prince Andrew is a really bad example. Prince Charles, really bad example. There's some that are trying, but that's the fairy tale. The fairy tale is there. It exists, and it's descended obviously in the last 30 years quite tragically. But the whole point of it is to provide somebody with inspiration to think, if I try, I can be better, I can do better, I can live the fairy tale, and I can somehow get the happily ever after. But the only way as a common man I can get there is by effort and by merit. It's not going to land in my lap, right? I'm not going to meet the prince in the forest or anything like that. Where we're at today, this is the footnote that I put, and it's not really about dumbing people down, but it's about, if you fuck little boys, they'll call you a priest. If you fuck young girls, they'll call you a prince. How tragic is that, right? And you wonder, well, where's the monarchy gone today? They no longer represent the fairy tale anymore.
No.
Right? If you come back pre-1980, between the end of the Second World War and 1980, things looked pretty good. There was something there to be, okay, this could legitimately be a fairy tale. Before that, it was actually mostly cousins getting married to cousins, and it was a pretty ugly mess. And that's what the whole First World War started, was because it was a family feud, and that got real ugly. And once Charles and Diana and the whole thing with Andrew and Fergie kicked off, it got real ugly after that. And now you have to ask, well, there's no fairy tale anymore. No fairy tale. So now there's no okay. So I don't have a dream. If I don't have a dream, if I can't work my way out of this, I don't have any incentive. If I don't have any incentive, there's no rewards. There's no, well, why put in the effort? If I don't put in the effort, then I don't have any. Well, then slowly you do work your way into just being dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber. Youth today can't buy a home for $48,000 anymore.
No.
You're building a house. You know what they're worth. I just built a house a couple years ago. I know what they're worth. I can't buy a home on average, a year's salary. So, okay, what am I going to do? I'm going to be a basement dweller. I'm going to live in my mom's basement. Of course, not me personally, but
yeah.
Youth today, that's the thing. And maybe not even with my parents, maybe with my grandparents. I'm not going to be a burden to the previous generation. I'm going to be a burden to the generation before the previous generation. Because the fairy tale is dead. The last point I have: women in blood sports, and that's a bit of a stretch, but who's watching UFC? The women's fights in UFC. Who's watching that?
I don't watch UFC at all.
I don't watch UFC at all, but I'd like to know who's watching. Who's watching Ronda Rousey?
Don't know who it is.
And why? Because I have this theory that, and if there's any women watching, I'd be curious to know: are you watching it, or is it men watching it? And is it a sexual deprivation thing? Why is it, right? Because so in ancient Rome, the Emperor Nero, this is right before the fall of Rome. The Emperor Nero would make senators' wives fight to the death in the Colosseum. He would make female gladiators fight male dwarves to the death. Right. So I mean, we're probably not there. We're talking fight to the death.
We're close.
But so we put women in blood sports, or in mixed martial arts is what it is today. And yeah, not only would they fight in the old days, not only fight to the death, they'd have to fight topless to the death. So there was totally a sexual deprivation thing there. There was totally it was misogynistic or what it was, but it was really depraved, right? And that's what I think of what it is today, especially with the whole thing with. Very recently, there was a gentleman that transitioned to become a woman, and then wanted to become a woman's Olympian. It was a swimmer, and then of course,
oh yes,
kicks the shit out. Where is the line in the sand there? Where is the line in the sand there? Because at some point, chivalry has to step in and say, "This is enough."
Yes,
but you can't do that now without getting canceled. And what is the result? It's not that women become more empowered. Is you actually take away and you belittle women and saying that these men are now better at becoming. Caitlyn Jenner was a good example, right? The first year becoming after transitioning became Woman of the Year. There's a dude. The dude is better at being a woman than a woman.
Yeah,
it's so
that wasn't
good.
So
ludicrous that it's unfathomable, right? But now you've got guys transitioning and becoming women that want to compete at the Olympic level and saying that they're now better. Well, I'm sorry, but if Floyd Mayweather transitioned to become a woman and went against Ronda Rousey, he would knock her fucking head into next week.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's not because he's a better fighter. It's just because he has a physical advantage. And that's not a misogynistic thing to say. It just is. It's a biological thing. And yet we've degraded ourselves as a society to this point. So what is the end result? It's not that women get better by aspiring to be something else, as they should be. It's that men become lesser men. Because men are now so scared to say anything, to have conversations like this, which, may be the end of our YouTube career.
Possible.
But they're so scared to say anything like this because they're going to get shut down and shut down at such a high level and demonized and monstrosized that they can no longer exist within society, or especially within popular society. But at the end, it doesn't change the facts.
No.
Right? So men become lesser men. And then when men become weak, what happens to women?
I don't know.
They're underprotected and they're underprovided. They're undervalued. Because at the end of the day, the man has two jobs. He has to protect and provide. And if he doesn't protect and provide, what happens to the remainder of the household? We talked about this at the very beginning, right? 85% of youth in prison grew up in a fatherless home. That's where our society's going. 75% of rapists. Fuck me.
Those are not good numbers.
Those are not good numbers. So I know the folks at home aren't concerned with this because they're all fine, upstanding citizens, as is all of our crowd. However, spend time with your kids. Spend more than an hour and 8 minutes with your kids. Be that guy. Nobody wants to be the male Karen. Nobody wants to say the thing because they're scared of being canceled. Nobody wants to put their foot down and say enough's enough. But I mean, we're willing to sit here, drink whiskey, smoke cigars.
We did, yeah.
Put ourselves out there.
We did for 2 hours and 20 minutes?
I don't know what this cigar cost, but it was fucking terrible.
It was good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really am glad you enjoyed it.
I'm going to smoke the rest of it.
I'm glad this did not taste like iodine
once we get
or metal.
Wrapped up, I'm going to smoke the rest of it.
I'm going to, just out of spite,
Me as well.
just because that's the manly thing to do, is to suck it up and made
Absolutely.
the commitment. Here we are now. What are we? 2 hours, 19 minutes into it.
I got everything I had.
I have everything I had. We should wrap it up too. We should say, hey, if you haven't already commented, you could win one of these fantabulous smoking out cups
You could win a sweater.
or a whiskey glass.
You just gotta let us know.
And if you invite one of your friends, you could win a humidor, much like this one here, but it's actually back there. When we get to 1,000 subscribers, invite your friends. Once we get there, if we're not canceled tonight,
If we're not canceled by the end of the evening.
fingers crossed.
Absolutely.
But I think we're not quite at a half a bottle here.
That's about usually where we make it.
We're usually around just under the halfway mark. I think all in all, you had a good experience with the cigar.
I loved it. The whole combination.
I was really conflicted.
Big fan.
It was bad, and it was good, and then it was bad again, and then I kind of gave up.
And then it fell apart.
And then it just kind of come unraveled. The whiskey, you know what? I don't know.
Was good whiskey.
What was that guy's name? It was here. James Culver. James, I don't want to shame you on the internet, but your kitchen sink is spoiled in having this whiskey go down its drain.
Yeah.
It's actually quite nice.
I highly doubt he'll give a shit, but
he's probably not watching.
He's wrong. He was wrong.
Yeah, and hopefully he has the humility at one time to. I mean, he's a whiskey snob.
He should reach out and say,
for sure.
Yeah, you guys are right.
We'll find him. I'll find you. I have a very unique set of skills. I will find you, James, and convince you that this is actually good whiskey. It was good.
It was good. It was good. It was good. It was all good.
Did we miss any comments at the end here? Yes, we did miss Coop. Okay, sorry. Chad says a lot of these government programs just line their families and buddies' pockets. It would be cheaper for the taxpayer if they did nothing. I can't even disagree with that. Yeah. If you literally just put in your 4 years? It's 4 years they put in?
It's 4, yeah, just to get the pension, I think.
Yeah, if they just put in 4 years and did absolutely nothing, they'd probably waste less money. We also need to sew up the whole thing around bureaucracy in Canada. At many, many levels of government, bureaucracy is eating our lunch. The line in the sand is a boy and a girl is a girl. I think the vast majority of people would agree with that. I think the government pushes this crap to try and shame the general public. At the end of the day, there's many of us that we're going to have to reconcile ourselves to agree to disagree on the aspects of this, but we have to agree there's no place for this in governance.
No.
This should not be, I mean, what is the point of the government is to set policy and set legislation, not to decide on scientific matters.
No, absolutely
right.
Not.
And at the end of the day, is there going to be masculine women? Yes. Is there going to be feminine men? Yes. Are they free to live their life as they want to live? Absolutely. Do we need to converse beyond that? We shouldn't have to.
No.
Don't be a fucking dick. And that's as far as you need to take that one. But do we need to push it in the schools? Do we need to push it at the government level? Why? Why do we need to go there? Alberta Boy 74 said the old adage for men rings more true that today they never grow a set. Absolutely, yeah. Or maybe keep a set. I don't know.
Keep a set.
Keep a set if you can, if you got them, right?
Who's
and Sarah. Oh, okay, that's Kevin's wife. Yeah, I like the sweater. It is a nice sweater. I like that. That teal blue is a very good color. It's nice. It's bright. Not only the color is good, but very, very comfortable.
They are nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like one of those, like it's like wearing a hug.
It is.
Right.
It is nice. I don't know how it lasts after 3 or 4 washes, but new, it's quite nice.
I mean, at the end of the day, who cares how it lasts after 3 or 4 washes? It's only going to get more comfortable. Whether the logo stays or goes, I don't know what's going to happen. But but we know are these dishwasher safe?
They are. Yeah, they are. Same with whiskey glasses. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome. So if anybody hasn't commented yet, you're missing out.
Absolutely.
So, well, should we let the folks go to bed? What time is it now? 10:30?
It is. That's a good, I think the little over 2. I was impressed because we were supposed to get a little over 2 hours of smoke time on that. And we got a little over 2 hours of smoke
I think we probably could have got more if I hadn't come unraveled. But,
yeah, if you didn't butcher it, but I've been down that road.
Yeah, we've all been there. So. All right.
Awesome.
Okay, well, we'll be back in our poll section
Absolutely.
on our individual channels.
Yeah, we got to do that there yet. We don't have the community page available.
That's the
on
reasoning.
Smoking Oak yet.
You know, we're obviously the worm on the end of the hook, or the
Yeah.
carrot, is that we need to get 500 subscribers in order to get a community page so that we can engage individually on this channel. So the ask for the 8 people that
Yeah.
are now watching, I know it's only 8 people, but
Tell 10 people.
a single grain of rice can tip the scale, right?
Absolutely.
So invite your friends, share it. We now have a Facebook page.
We have a Facebook page.
Yeah.
We do.
So talking about the same stuff. And the reason for the Facebook page is because we don't have a community page on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So go on Facebook, look up Smoking Oak, like the page, invite your friends. We're going to share the link to this episode on that Facebook page, as we're going to share all of our video links. There'll be updates throughout the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
I'm going to be gone in 2 weeks.
You're out of here.
Going to the shoe shop for a
Perfect.
week. It's going to be awesome. So maybe our next one's going to be a couple, 3 weeks.
Could be.
We'll see. We'll see what the crops are doing.
Absolutely. There should be time to get a couple more in before harvest.
Before harvest. Yeah, we'll have to take a little break for harvest.
Whatever, 4 weeks. But
I usually spend 1 or 2 days in the combine. I'm sure you spend 1 or 2 weeks in the combine.
I spend 1 or 2 days in the combine too. It usually rains enough that we can fucking get back at it too. So.
Yeah. And so hopefully we flew the flag and you guys could see where we stand on a lot of stuff, and we got that out of the way. And
this was a fun one.
I enjoyed it. You know?
And if you haven't seen the movie Idiocracy, strongly recommend watching it. It's on Netflix, I think.
I mean, we could say with all certainty that if you water your garden with Gatorade, it's not going to
work.
It's not going to grow.
Electrolytes.
Because the electrolytes, it's too much salt in the ground. Yeah. Good times.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks, folks, for joining us.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you guys all in the next one.
Okay, awesome.
The logo's fire.